Ayo, yeah, that's B-Eazy, that's the name. Way before the world knew he was running the game. Laid the groundwork, built the foundation strong. Been influencing the whole scene all along. Now everybody gotta give that man his praise. A living legend for the rest of his days. Oh, he deserves all the accolades, yeah. B-Eazy, B-Eazy, gotta give that man his praise. A living legend for the rest of his days. Oh, he deserves all the accolades. B-Eazy.
Ayo, who is that dude? Oh girl, that's just B-Eazy. Oh boy, that's just B-Eazy. Well, who is B-Eazy? Oh, you ain't know he been a pro, for show, all about the dough. He been running up them racks and still trying to get some more. He really one of them ones, his presence so pivotal. So hell yeah, he that dude, this is unequivocal. Ooh, B-Eazy. He got that certain kind of profile, smooth and effortless style. He's so fresh, makes the whole room stop and stare a while. Hear him asking, who's that? Mama, there he goes again. The way he moves, you know he's gonna win. Oh, you ain't know? That's just B-Eazy. B-Eazy Dat Dude. That man right there. Be-Eazy. We all here to see B-Eazy. We wanna listen to B-Eazy. Ayy, we all like B-Eazy. Nah, matter of fact, we love B-Eazy. Believe me, he really that dude. Subscribe to the channel, it's easy to do. If you care, then go ahead and share this fire content, extraordinarily rare. That's why I put that on my mama, he is that dude. And I put that on my daddy, he is that dude. So
yeah. Listen up. It's B-Eazy Dat Dude, the great. He ain't fake, he one of the real guys. Spin fire every stream, you been late to the party, now it's time to realize. From Pittsburgh to around the world, yeah, the flow is elite. Every beat that he slide on turns into straight heat. Came up from the grind, selling box on a laptop, running up a bag, feel like he hit the jackpot. Got the luxury visions, ambition vivid, never bluff. Person's progress, persevere when the going gets tough. B-Eazy Dat Dude, got stripes in the game. Every rhyme, every line, they gon' remember the name. From the streets to the stage, the energy don't fade. Legend in the making, yeah, history's what he's laid. Mic in his hand, heart in the flow and soul on every beat. Dropping knowledge, power, bravado, his legacy complete. Hustle amplified, lyrics electrified, that's the truth. B-Eazy Dat Dude, established with certified proof. Feel the bass, feel the vibe, let it ride through the crowd. All the words, every hook, man, he keeps making us proud. King of his lane, rising above every feud. All hail the one and only, B-Eazy Dat Dude. Yeah.
Ayy, we all like B-Eazy. Nah, matter of fact, we love B-Eazy. Believe me, he really that dude. So, B-Eazy, tell me how it feel. Ooh, tell me how it feel to be real, to be really that dude. B-Eazy Dat Dude.
If you feel the vibe, like, share, and subscribe. We growing on this journey. Come and take a ride. If you wanna slide with that dude, be easy. We going all the way to the top, believe me. All the way to the top, believe me.
B-Eazy Dat Dude, boy, stop playing. You know you dat dude and been dat dude. Back in the day, he was that dude. Fast forward to today, he's still that dude. Yup, dat dude. You can see as clear as day that he here to stay. Either get with the program or move out the way. Ooh. B-Eazy Dat Dude, he back with another one.
Turn your radios up. Turn your radios up. Y'all know what this is. Y'all know who this is. B-Eazy Dat Dude, an impromptu stream back with another one. This one will be a banger. Controversial topic, so it will be a doozy. I don't like to keep y'all waiting. So before we get this thing started, I gotta hit ya.
If you know the song, sing along. Yeah, you're right.
私も地元民
Hey,
と言っても実は世代です。もう友達できたの？うん。ぶったまんまこっち見ない。
no, never been a regular. None of y'all competitors. Niggas better catch up like 10 steps ahead. Look, this promethazine got me leaning like a cholo in the club. I'm 20 deep. I don't be riding solo. Pull some bad bitches, they vanilla and cocoa. They wanna take some photos when we kick it out in Soho. Chicks are showing tits and popping pussy for my promo. Told them like juvenile, baby, move it for me slow-mo. Then I'm right back to the block, cause I keep getting moto. I be flipping, not shrinking. I don't give a fuck about This nigga name ain't D-Lo, but pimping these bitches and stacking this bread forever be my stilo. This is B-Eazy Dat Dude. In the trap making pass smooth. If I ever go broke, then I'm about to pull a jack move. Since a nigga healthy, I don't even gotta worry. With my bitch from Fiji, eating tandoori and chicken curry. That ism is really in me. My pimp game international. I design my own clothes, so I be always looking fashionable. Here's a couple facts about me that y'all didn't know. Some of y'all be getting bread, but I be getting bigger, dawg. I got bigger guns and a whole lot of better. And we are activated. And it looks like we've been joined by some illustrious guests. We got the majestic melanated agenda, and we got the corn husker herself, the hood table, and the doctor's orders, the people's doctor, Dr. Soapy in building. So salute to y'all. Now, I don't plan on being here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. And depending on how this is received, I may come back and hit y'all with a double header. Now we gonna get right into this thing. Y'all seen the title. Y'all seen the thumbnail. What in the frig? What in the fig is a diaspora war? The gaslighting will be further exposed and explained. Now, let's just start with the term diaspora, right? This is a relatively new term that people are using. Not to say that the term in itself is new, but the usage of the term. People didn't grow up using the term diaspora or even talking about it. And if they did hear the term, they didn't really pay it no mind. Now you can't go on TikTok or YouTube or any of these social media platforms without some relation to Africa and talking about the diaspora, right? So even though you know nothing about the diaspora, right, you're just supposed to pretend as if you have some inherent spiritual connection to the motherland. And when you say, actually, that's not my motherland is here. Oh, you don't know who you are. You don't know where you're from. No, know exactly where I'm from. That's why I'm claiming the soil. And this isn't inherently divisive. It's an awakening. It's an enlightenment moment. But some people consider it as disrespect. So far to say that it's a war, which is not only disingenuous, but is rather disgusting. Do you know what goes on in wars? There's little babies getting their limbs amputated with no anesthesia right now in a war. And it's beyond a war. It's a slaughter and it's a genocide. People, women, and children are forcibly penetrated and taken as prisoners and trafficked in wars. That's not what's happening. People yelling with each other, going back and forth on Twitter or other social media platforms. It's not a war. You can call it a dispute, you can call it a conflict, but no, it's not a war. And anyone that continues to perpetuate this rhetoric of it being a war is engaging in disingenuous and disgusting rhetoric. But don't worry, we will get into it. So let me go ahead and pull this banner down. And like I said, I know some people will be triggered, but the lies and the gaslighting will be exposed. So just, hang tight because this one will be a doozy. So let me get into it. And then if y'all in the chat, let me know. And if anybody wants to come up, if you want to have a discussion, I'd prefer to have a discussion. But if there's something that you want to debate about, then, let me know. And you know, if it seems worthy of debate, then hey, let's get into it. So let me make that a little bit bigger for y'all. And don't worry, I will read. So this is story time with B-Eazy. So the core claim to dissect is disputes between foundational Black American descendants of those enslaved in the U.S. and Black immigrants or their descendants from Africa, the Caribbean, etc., are just online debates or arguments. Nothing, anything resembling a war. So this is challenging the notion of a diaspora war. Now, once you frame intra-Black tensions, what some would call intra-racial tensions, as equivalent to or distracting from actual armed conflicts involving displacement and mass slaughter is disingenuous. So we're going to break this down. Now, the semantic and definitional clarity. War has a specific meaning. And I know some people will say, well, we don't mean a literal war. Well, if you don't mean a literal war, stop using this heated rhetoric, right? This is some inflammatory rhetoric that you're using. So, war has a specific meaning: organized, large scale, armed conflict with lethal violence, territorial control, mass casualties, and often or militia involvement. Example: civil wars in Sudan, Ethiopia, Eritrea conflicts. Historical examples like the Rwandan genocide, the Biafran War, or ongoing Sahel insurgencies. These involve real slaughter, refugee crisis, and displacement on massive scales. This is war. Someone yelling back and forth online and calling some people a tether or an African booty scratcher, which no one uses that term anymore, but people still pretend like people are getting called that left and right. But even if you were called an African booty scratcher, that's not an act of war. You're not a refugee because someone called you a tether, right? No one is slaughtering you by calling you a tether. And many of these people say, you guys trip off the N word too much. It's just a word. Guess what else is just a word? Tether. Online arguments, Twitter, X threads, YouTube debates, diaspora wars, cultural gatekeeping, or even heated in-person discussions about identity, reparations, eligibility, crime stats, or who built what do not qualify as war. They are rhetorical conflict, status competition, and identity signaling common in every ethnic immigrant group in the U.S. Example: Irish versus Italian, historically, intra-Latino tensions, Jewish denominational fights, Asian American subgroup rivalries. Hyperbole inflates drama for engagement. Calling FBA advocacy war is rhetorical escalation, similar to how some frame any political disagreement as violence. It negates real wars by diluting the term. People argue lineage specificity for policy. Example: reparations, are engaging in democratic interest groups politics, not combat. And you remember, like Professor Black Truth, Says groups don't have allies, they have interest. FBA position, substantive claims, not baseless hatred. FBA, or ADOS adjacent, emphasizes lineage, direct descent from U.S. chattel slavery, freedmen, and the specific post-emancipation struggles, Jim Crow, redlining, etc., distinct from voluntary Black immigration post-1965. Key points that hold up empirically. Reparation specificity. U.S. chattel slavery plus its legal aftermath created a unique intergenerational claim on the U.S. government. You hear that? On the U.S. government, not on the Africa diaspora, not on the Caribbean. Recent immigrants or their kids did not experience that here. Their ancestors' issues were with other nations, colonial powers. Broad Black reparations would dilute targeted redress. So all the people pushing, we're all racially Black, so we got to fight for some global racial reparations, which they've already deemed unconstitutional. Now you can say that it's immoral. You can make that argument. And once you say that it's immoral, also say that it's unconstitutional. But lineage targeted reparations is not unconstitutional. Now they're trying to make certain lineage claims a proxy for race. That's why if we had allies in the so-called diaspora, they would be saying, hey, look, man, we're going to tell them that we don't want to fight for racial reparations. We want to be a buffer to help advocate for your lineage specific reparations. But instead they're saying we all Black, even if I immigrated here well after Jim Crow, well after many of these atrocities, still because of we have a similar level of melanin, I should be entitled to that too, right? But no, there's no Korean person that would immigrate around the Japanese internment time and say, hey, I'm entitled to the reparations that the Japanese received from being interned because we all Asian. Koreans are Asians, Japanese are Asians. Koreans were not now and not then entitled to the Japanese reparations simply based on their racial proximity. Now, broad Black reparations would dilute targeted redress, much like how Native American tribal claims are lineage specific. And many of these so-called Native Americans, they don't even have DNA tests, right? So they always telling you, do a DNA test, do a DNA test. And then the people that you call Native Americans, they're like, hell to the no. Many of them don't require a DNA test. And when many of them did have a blood quantum DNA test, it was because there was a paper genocide going on to exclude and eradicate all of the melanated, i.e. foundational Black tribal members out in favor of people that look like Justin Bieber and Macaulay Culkin. So if you look at many of these tribal chiefs, they look like, a Lily W, right? But you're supposed to pretend like that person is indigenous, right? Black people who actually have indigenous ancestry are called pretendians, but a tribal chief that looks like Justin Timberlake, their whole family looks like the Backstreet Boys, you consider them indigenous just because they said so and they could show you a card on paper, right? There was a term for that. They called it $5 Indian. So critics calling this xenophobic often conflate race with ethnicity, national origin. Lineage-based claims are standard in inheritance treaties and affirmative remedies. Example, like I already gave, Japanese American reparations. Now, let me see what the chat has to say before I commence. Oh, and shout out to the exquisite, the enchanting, and the elegant Tory experience. And shout out to the majestic melanated. Yeah, get your popcorn because this one will be a banger. Now, demographics and economic competition. People want to try to pretend we all Black, we all minorities, we all people of color, but people are competing. If we're all black and we're all so-called African Americans and we all came from the motherland, why would you need to make a separate neighborhood and delineate? If we're all black, that means I'm black, you black. So why do you need a little Haiti? We all black. Why do you need a little Jamaica, a little Senegal? Why do they even need a Chinatown or a Koreatown? They're all Asian. So every other group delineates and they're praised and congratulated for delineating. But if we have, hey, let's just have a freedman town, that's divisive. We all African. Okay, if we're all African, again, why are you fighting tooth and nail to preserve a little Haiti? You want to create America, which is not Haiti. You want to transform your section of America into Haiti, but you don't want to live in Haiti. And fine, we're just supposed to accept that, right? Black neighborhoods are supposed to get turned into Little Italy, Little Haiti, Chinatown, Little Saigon. But when we say, you know what, we want a little FBA town, we can't say that we want an African American town because people say, hey, y'all said y'all wanted an African American town. So I present to you Little Nigeria. Huh? No, that's not what we were saying. But okay, fine. Since every group wants to delineate, we say, you know what, we're late to the party. We're going to delineate too. And then now it's turned into that's a psyop. Huh? Doing the same thing that you've been doing for decade after decade as a psyop. No one can make this make sense to you. It wasn't just the Dominicans. I know black, Poppy. I'm not black, I'm Nigerian. I'm not black, I'm Haitian. I'm not black, I'm Yoruba. I'm not black, I'm Hausa. This wasn't ancient times ago that people were saying this. There's video footage. It's written in historical documents. It's written on major news platforms. Even a simple Google search and you can find this. If you're too lazy, then just use an AI search engine and it will back and confirm everything I'm saying. So that's not a war. You've been delineating and now FBAs are saying, you know what? I'm going to delineate. Y'all starting a war with us, huh? It doesn't make any sense. Now, black immigrants, Nigerians, Ghanaians, Jamaicans, etc., often have a higher education income outcomes than native black Americans in some metrics. And this is because they're carefully curated and saying, look, you know, we're only going to like they'll have the low skilled Latinos come over, but they don't really want like low skilled Africans and Caribbeans, right? Even though they do have a multitude of them. So when they're talking about a particular certain level of educational attainment, it's the same thing that they do with the H-1B visas, right? If you look at the Indians in Mumbai, those aren't the same scholarly Indians that are coming over. There's some impoverished Chinese people. There's some Chinese gang members. Those aren't the people that they're allowing to enter the country, right? So they'll allow these elite people from their country to come over and then they'll compare them to the entire black population, right? It's a small segment of black immigrants that are even here. The 90% of foundation. So 90% of the black people in America are native born. So it's only about like 10% of the black American population is immigrants. So they're comparing a subset of that 10% versus the entire 90% and saying they outperform you in this metric and all this stuff. And then when you start peeling back the layers, those talk about household income. And then you look on average, and it's not just, you know, Africans, Caribbeans, immigrants on average, they have more people in the household. An average American family may have 3 to 4, maybe. An immigrant family on average could have 8 to 10. So when they're measuring income, they're measuring household income. So that's the whole household. So you're measuring sometimes 6 to 8 people versus, you know, a single household or 3 people. And then they start and get into talk, well, it's all about culture and all this other stuff. And I say, fine, y'all can make those claims about our culture. But when I point the finger about the culture in your homeland, which is the reason why you had to flee, it turns into xenophobia. So they can attack Black Americans, but that's not xenophobia because we all Black. But then if you don't even attack them, you just respond to them, it's framed as an attack and xenophobia. Make it make sense. You can't because it doesn't. Cultural identity. Hold on. I think I missed something, right? So immigration can increase labor supply in low skill sectors, historically displacing native workers. So all of the people, I will vote for Donald Trump. Why do you think the Latinos were voting against it? Because they're like, man, we don't want to be displaced. Like they didn't see those Latinos as their brothers and sisters. They were like, hey, it seems like we got enough to our neighborhood. We have enough in Little Mexico. We have enough in Little Cuba. So they were voting to close the borders. Meanwhile, the Black politicians were out there crashing out to open the border and flood it with millions and millions of non-Black people. And guess what neighborhoods they're going to drop them in? Not in Martha's Vineyard. Obama didn't want them in their neighborhood. Obama is all loving, right? Loves humanity, right? He did something for DACA for the Dreamers. He just doesn't want the Dreamers living next to him. Go drop them in the Black neighborhood. And now the Black neighborhood is no longer a Black neighborhood, right? It becomes Little Mexico. But I thought we were all minorities and people of color. So how did it turn into Little Mexico? I thought it was about Black and brown, right? So no other group is on this goofy stuff, right? Chinatown. Do you think Chinatown wants their neighborhood flooded with Japanese people? And Japanese people are Asian as well. But meanwhile, we're supposed to have our neighborhoods flooded with Africans, flooded with Caribbeans, flooded with Latinos, flooded with Asians. And then they just tell you, hey, those are your fellow people of color, even though they don't even identify as a color. And then even though they spent their whole lives telling you, hey, why do you call yourself Black? Black is just a color. It's no country called Black. They've spent their whole life pretty much admonishing you for having your identity attached to a color. And then they come over here and say, hey, I'm a person of color. But that's not what they were saying. When they were talking about colored people, there was only one group that was considered colored. It was foundational Black American freedmen. All these other groups were called colored. And guess what they were saying? Me no Black, papi. They fought legally to be classified as something other than colored. But when they believe that it's advantageous to be identifying as a color, then suddenly, yeah, I'm a person of color. And just ask them this, what color? It's a bunch of people you call brown, but they're actually white. There's a bunch of pale-skinned Asians, but you call them yellow. Where's the yellow? But then again, when you talk about a foundational Black American freedman, you haven't seen a yellow Asian. You have seen a yellow Black person. They call them light skin. They call them red bone. You talk about a red native. When's the last time you've seen a red native? You've seen a image of one a long time ago. You have seen red Black people. You have seen blue Black people. You have seen brown people. Most foundational Black Americans are brown. None of our skin is Black. Most of us are copper colored. So when you talk about the spectrum, we're all spectrums. And then you even got some people that are light as Steph Curry that identify as Black. Could you say that about all these other groups? So who truly are the people of color? And if that's us, why are we just trying to pretend like we're all the same based on that word? It doesn't make any sense. And it's a form of ethnic and cultural erasure. You know what I mean? They tried to frame it as people of color fought for their civil rights. No, they didn't. There were no Asians around like in mass fighting for civil rights. So try to frame the civil rights struggle as POCs fighting for everyone is disingenuous at best. Right? So this standard economics is not unique to this group. See Borjas Hansen research on immigration wage effects. So this ain't just me being xenophobic. You hate immigrants, right? You know what I mean? Like it's a bunch of immigrants that hate immigrants. So don't try to take that out on me. But look up Borderhaus-Hanson research on immigration wage effects, and guess who gets affected the most? Black people. So not only do we get displaced, right? We get displaced in our own neighborhood. We get displaced in the workforce, and then we're told, you niggas is lazy. You didn't want to work. I was working and I was displaced. You mean to tell me no Black person will do construction? There's a bunch of undocumented people working at McDonald's, KFC. Y'all say them niggas love chicken. So you mean to tell me no niggas will work at KFC or Popeyes? No niggas will work at McDonald's? No, y'all just lazy, right? Come on. When I grew up, that's all it was Black people working at fast food, right? And it was a lot of teenagers. There was a lot of teenagers. Now there's grown adults working there. So forget the lazy Black adults. You mean to tell me no teenager that's trying to get money for prom will work at McDonald's? Like, who are we kidding here? There's a reason why these terms were called pool boy. It wasn't called a pool man. There's a reason why it was called a paper boy. It wasn't called paper man. Those jobs were what young teenage boys would do so they wouldn't be turned into guns and gangs, so that they can do something productive and useful in society. But now the pool boy, there's no need for a boy, because they're just going to hire some undocumented non-citizen under the table so they can exploit them, right? And we're supposed to champion them on because they work hard. Okay, there's a bunch of hoes that got sent to the blade by their gorilla pimp. They work hard, right? So should we champion the pimp because he's exploiting the hoe that works hard? I mean, that's pretty much what you're saying. Hey, give bro props. He sent her out on the blade and she brought him back $5K in a couple hours. Shouldn't that be praised? But that's what you do. Who's gonna pick the fruit? Yeah, they're picking the fruit for $2 in a bag of Takis. What is there to celebrate about that? But let's see what the chat has to say. And shout out to John Cien, one of the coldest, dopest with a pen. Oh, and hey, salute to y'all. I mean, I got the chef apron on. I appreciate that, Tori. I sincerely do. And salute to you on those reels. You've been going up. The reels have been going up. I may have to drop the exquisite, add the ravishing. So salute to the Tory experience. And last call, Mr. Midnight Soul or Midnight Marauder. I don't know. Chatting from an undisclosed location in Northern America. So salute to last call. And we got none other than the hardest working mod on YouTube, Vibrant Lol. What it do? And of course, if you're feeling generous, you could make a contribution. Hey, if you don't want to, though, it won't cost you a fee. The likes, comment, sharing, and engagement is all free. But hold on. Matter of fact, if y'all want to feel generous, I cooked this up. John, hey, John, are you still in the chat? Johnny boy, let me know if you're still in the chat. Shout out to the bro, John. But don't trip, like. So I appreciate y'all. I'm going to get right back to the stream. But this is a moment for me to cook this up. Okay, John is in the chat. So salute to John Cien. If you want, I will drop the link and we can chop it. I may not be here for a strong time, but it will. I mean, my bad. I mess up my own slogan. I may not be here for a long time, but it will be a strong time. And if you do want to make a contribution,
Grave digger, the dome cracker, the wig splitter. All about my cheddar, square ass nigga. Hating on the player, cause I'm all about my facts. Drugs don't get you, 100 miles per hour, feel like a cobra. All about my cheddar, square ass nigga.
I'm all about my cheddar, but hey, I'm a man of the people. I do this for the free 99, but you know, get hit your boy on the Cash App. Let's get back into it though. So check that out. I'm giving y'all sources. The Boraz Hansen research talks about the immigration wage effects, how it essentially lowers wages, depreciates wages, and it displaces native people, you know, native born people, but specifically the harms are disproportionately affecting the Black American community. Now, this highlights the parallels that other native workers have concerns about. Black advocacy against certain guest worker programs, the H-1B visas, because they'll bring these people over to hire them for cheaper. But if they're doing the jobs, that means someone else isn't doing the job. And you can't tell me that, hey, uh, I've seen some of these construction crews, you know, there's, you know, and hey, salute to them. Doing construction is a hard and it's a dirty job. But there's a lot of dudes out there that are short, fat, you know, sloppy, slow. Like if you knew, like, hey, if I raced that dude, I would win. If we had a bench press contest, I would win. You know what I mean? If we had a mouthpiece contest, I would win. So you can't try to convince me that these people are their work so hard. All you do was here, lift this, hammer this, drill that. It's called low skilled work. So you can't tell me that someone here can't do that work. So it's just framed as, hey, these people are working so much harder so that you're desensitized to your displacement. Then they have someone come over here and train you, right? If this person is working so hard, why am I training them? Like, why don't they know? How could they be working harder than me, but I know more than them, right? They work so much hard, it's just I have to train them. Huh? Does that make any sense? Yeah, bro, this person is better than you. He worked harder than you, but go ahead and train them to show how good you are. But I thought you said he was better than me. So shouldn't he be training me? Oh, well, he don't know. So how is he better than me if I have to train him? Right. And then think about this. If this person works so hard, like, why didn't you work that hard in your homeland? Right. If I came over to your house and I helped clean your house and I said, start wagging my fingers, and then you come to my house and it's a disgusting pigsty, who am I to talk about cleaning houses when I haven't even cleaned my own house? You haven't cleaned your own country up. You haven't fought for anything in your own country, but you're here to wag your finger and tell me what I need to do. You need to work harder. Oh, like you did in your homeland? You worked hard on getting the hell out of there. Trump called your homeland a shithole and you agreed with him. I call it a shithole, which I don't really use rhetoric like that. But hypothetically, if I did, you would say that's xenophobia. How's it xenophobia to accurately describe the conditions of your homeland, the conditions you fled from? You didn't stand on business and fight for anything or anyone. You just send some money back so you can go over and live like a king. You living like a king because the conditions persist. There's nothing courageous about that. Actually, there's another C word that I would use: cowardly. Now, these are policy and identity arguments. Many FBA voices, Tariq Nasheed, etc., explicitly frame not better, just different, advocating priority for native descendants without denying others' humanity. And that's all it is. Nobody is saying that people need to be mistreated, people need to be used and abused. All we're saying is that we're different. And you guys know that we're different because you spent your whole life telling us how different we are. And then we were saying, no, 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 we're the same. No, we're different. No, 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 we're the same. No, 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 we're different. And then we say, you know what? Actually, we are different. Now you're flipping the script saying, no, no, we're the same. And we're trying to pretend as if people always thought this way. Now, let's counter some of these talking points. It's divisive. They say it's divisive and Pan-Africanism is better. But this is a crock of you know what. But hold on, let me get back to the chat real quick. Oh, and shout out to John Sin still up in here. But let's get back to it though, right? This is why it's a crock of you know what, of sugar honey iced tea. Unity is ideal, but ignoring subgroup differences doesn't create it. Every diaspora has internal distinctions. Example, Indian Americans versus recent arrivals. Pan-Africanism is aspirational politics, right? People aspire to be Pan-African, but usually they're not really Pan-African in practice because they don't have anything to show for it. Most of the things they have to show for it is content. They talked about Pan-Africanism on a topic, on a podcast. They read a Pan-Africanist book. They quoted a Pan-Africanist figure. But is that really tangible or is that just rhetorical? It's aspirational, right? They're trying to recruit people into Pan-Africanism, but they have no fruits of their Pan-African labor because it's been rhetorical labor. It hasn't been sweat equity. It hasn't been blood equity. There's been no Pan-Africans that have died for the sake of Pan-Africanism. And I'm not advocating for the unaliving and the elimination of anyone. I'm just saying, you know, politics is war with bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed, and war is politics with bloodshed. Pan-Africanism is politics. So unless you're willing to split a wig and bust a head, you may not have to. But unless that's on the table, you're not really serious about Pan-Africanism because it's in the word Africa and Africanism, which should be most pervasive on the continent of Africa. But most of the prominent Pan-Africans, are American. So the Africans aren't united in Africa, but they're looking towards Black Americans to unite all of Africa. Africans are on the continent by themselves. Of course, there's insurgents. Of course, there's imperial forces, with coup d'etats and military destabilization, right? But a lot of that is because their corrupt leaders are allowing it, and the native population there is not fighting for anything. They're just fighting to get the hell out of there. So we're not fleeing anywhere. So we're not the same as someone that, the block gets hot and they want to run. Hey, not trying to disparage you or not trying to demean you for your choices. I'm just saying it's not the same. The block has always been hot here. And we say, you know what? There's nowhere else for us to flee. Flee back to Africa. What do you mean back to Africa? I've never been to Africa. My mom's never been to Africa. My dad's never been to Africa. Her mom's never been to Africa. Her mom's never been to Africa. How further do we have to go with this? They know nothing about Africa. They know nothing about African customs. There's just been a push to try to Africanize them and say, hey, you just don't know. You just don't know. It's like, no, you don't even know. You're trying to speculate and push that on. So you're supposed to talk about what you don't know in Africa and discard everything that you do know here. My family is from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Tuscaloosa is an indigenous word, right? There's an indigenous population in Tuscaloosa, but no, you from Africa. Like, you don't know any cousins from there. You don't know any distant relatives from there, and none of your family members know, but it's like, yeah, you from there based on a DNA test that the so-called Native Americans say, hell no, we ain't taking no DNA test. They ban DNA tests in many of those tribes, but you'll still acknowledge their native indigenous ancestry. Meanwhile, we all have to come from some mythical motherland. And let's just say I did come from the motherland. Why didn't anyone from the motherland come get me? Where's my brothers? Where are my cousins? Where was my mother to come get me? Oh, I forgot. My mother was here on an entirely different continent. So yeah, I do know exactly where I'm from. And I'm not trying to crap on where you're from. It's just stop trying to leech and tether my identity to yours. It's not interchangeable just because you want it to be. And why do you really want it to be? Because if you really think about it, the people on the continent, 3,000 different tribes, 2,000 different dialects. Does that sound united to you? I'm in California. Imagine you in San Francisco and then you drive to Oakland, but you can't understand the people in Oakland because they speak a different dialect. We all the same. Okay, so why can't people in San Francisco and Oakland speak the same language, right? So y'all on the continent and y'all don't see yourselves the same on the continent, and then you come to America, immigrate and try to assimilate, which you don't really try to assimilate. You pretend to assimilate with Black Americans. Say we all the same when you come from a place where you guys beat each other over the head based on tribal differences, right? And then you try to pivot. What about black on black crime? Okay, why don't you hear the Africans talking about what about Igbo on Igbo crime? What about Yoruba on Yoruba crime? What about Haitian on Haitian crime? What about Nigerian on Nigerian crime? Here, you love the term African, right? What about African on African crime? No, no. What about black on black crime? When they talk about black on black crime, who are they talking about? When they say, what about Chicago and Oakland? What ethnic group are they talking about? Yeah, you can try to say, oh, racially, they're talking about black people. But when they say black on black crime, are they really talking about the Sudan? Are they really talking about Burkina Faso and Mali? So we know exactly who they're talking about. But if you say, what about African on African crime, which would include North Africans, somehow that's xenophobia? Make it make sense. But just give me 1 second, because could y'all hear the background? Hold on real quick. And shout out to Roger Meadows. You said it will always be hot too. Yeah, shout out to Melanated. And that's the thing. The block is hot. The block is hot. The block is always hot for us, but we're built for it. What you call hell, we call home. I'm in Hell's Kitchen with an apron and a hairnet. You merely adopted the darkness. I was born in it, molded by it. Shout out to Bane. And we got the East Coast finest, Mr. Nassau County, Roger Meadows. Hey, where Brooklyn at? Salute to Roger Meadows. But yeah, Roger Meadows, we're discussing the myth of the diaspora war. There is no diaspora war coming from foundational Black Americans. Now, I will shout out to John. It will get deeper. I told y'all this is going to be a doozy. I'm going to show y'all the true diaspora wars that no one is talking about. And this is the disgusting gaslight that people are doing. There's a war going on now where little young girls are being raped. They're being trafficked. There's kids that are becoming orphans. There's people that are having their hands chopped off, their heads chopped off. This is what's happening. And someone is equating, I got called a tether. I got called an African booty scratcher. So that's a war. No, it's not. Has a bomb been dropped on you? Have any of your limbs been amputated? Has your kid been raped repeatedly and then human trafficked? That's not on par with someone calling you an African booty scratcher, which once again, no one even uses that term anymore. It's something that someone heard a long time ago, and then they're trying to pretend as if people are still using that term. That's a term from the 80s and 90s. Like, just stop pretending you were ever called that. And shout out to the gritty Frank Nitty putting on for the biddy. Let's get back into it. Now, there's this other claim. FBAs are xenophobic. Like, a lot of y'all don't even know what xenophobia means, right? All of these terms are relatively new in terms of its usage in the lexicon. Not to say that this term isn't old or has never been used again. It's just nobody was going around talking about the diaspora and calling people xenophobic, right? Even though they had a disdain towards Black Americans, that's not considered xenophobia, right? You know that our culture is rooted here, and you're shaming and shunning our identity based on the country we're from, based on our national origins. That's xenophobia right there. But when they're doing it towards us, calling us a kata and Yankee and Jareer and a bead, it's okay. It's like, well, it's not all of them. Well, not all FBAs call people tethers. There's some people that are foundational Black American that don't even, use the term, just as well as there's some people that are quote unquote African American that don't use the term, right? Even if someone was considered quote unquote Black and they said, I don't want to call myself Black, I'm melanin rich. Does that mean that they're not Black? It's just they don't identify as being Black. So when we talk about our identity, that's what we stand on. And we don't just let people like have a conditional and circumstantial identity, right? Monday through Friday, you want to be mixed. And then on the weekends, you want to go to the cookout. So you say, I'm Black, but only on the weekends. And then when Monday rolls around again, you say that I'm mixed again. So we just saying, okay, cool. You've delineated. You're not Black. You said you're mixed, right? You saying you're mixed is saying that you're something other than Black. So I agree with you. You're not Black. You're mixed. There's colorism. It's like, huh? I'm agreeing with you. So now I'm colorist. I mean, there's videos that I can pull up of Barack Obama calling himself biracial. That's what he is. The first Black president. No, the first Kenyan biracial president. Nothing wrong with that, right? It's a beautiful thing. But if you call him that, suddenly I'm being colorist and xenophobic by accurately identifying. So then when I asked him, okay, let's slow this down. Is Barack Obama Kenyan? Well, yeah. Is he biracial? Well, yeah. I called him a Kenyan biracial. Is that accurate? Well, yeah. So what's the problem? You didn't call him Black. Huh? Okay. Right. So some rhetoric is harsh or generalized, as in any group conflict, but distinguishing lineage from policy doesn't mean hating individuals. Many immigrants actually express anti-FBA stereotypes. We're too lazy. You're entitled. There's all of these crime tropes, 1350. What about Black on Black crime? Even immigrants use that because when they talk about Black on Black crime, they're talking about freedmen, right? And many of these people come from countries where they're destabilized. In Haiti, there's a nigga named Barbecue running the country. Don't take my word for it. Sounds funny, right? Some gang member named Barbecue who allegedly eats people and splits wigs. He busts heads, split wigs, and then allegedly he eats people. Now, maybe those are some tall tales and it may be obnoxious and outlandish, but show me the Haitian channel that are talking about Haitian on Haitian crime and dispelling these narratives. They don't give a damn because they fled the country. But I'm supposed to take advice? Okay. Now, these online wars are bi-directional, means is it people throwing mud at each other. It's not a one-sided affair, right? And most of our stuff is reactionary. Too many times we have been reactive rather than proactive. And now when some people do decide to go on the offensive, then they start to cry and, it's just you don't want to get into a roast battle with FBAs. Many FBAs, that's kind of all they had. They didn't have a lot of money, they didn't have a lot of wealth, but they did have their charisma. They did have their fortitude. They did have their resilience and innovative nature about them, right? So this is not a group that you want to contend with in terms of mouthpiece, in terms of roasting, playing the dozens with. You're going to lose every time. That's why when you look at comedians, there's comedians that are funny in all racial groups. And this is not biased, but what racial group produces the funniest comedians? And it's not just all people, right? It's specifically Black Americans, because there's some other funny, I'm sure there's some funny Caribbeans and funny Africans and stuff like that. Some people would say Godfrey, aka Godfrey, or Michael Blackson, but it's like, come on, bro. Michael Blackson can't hold a candle to Cat Williams, Jamie Foxx, Richard Pryor, Paul Mooney. Who is the African version of Richard Pryor? Who is the African version of Paul Mooney? And I'm not trying to make a competition. I'm just showing that there's a distinction, right? And we've always recognized, well, these people have always drawn the distinction, and we've tried to collapse it and say, no, it's all the same, a mishmash of one big global Negro. But that's disingenuous, is disgusting, and that's truly divisive, right? To just ethnically and culturally erase someone for an umbrella of a nebulous, mythical, flat blackness paradigm, right? Now, real issues like certain immigrant crime patterns in cities, i.e., Haitian and Trinidad mentions in debates, right? So always bring this up. Kodak Black has been a jailbird. He's been a junkie and a jailbird. So when he's out there being a junkie who can barely articulate himself, who's slurring and stammering over his words, that's black culture. No, it's not. He's Haitian. He's a proud Haitian. At least I think he is. So that's Haitian culture, right? When he does something great, that's Haitian culture. When he's slovenly, sloppy, and disgusting, that's black culture. No, it's not. When he has his escapades being a junkie and a jailbird, don't put that on no flat blackness, right? Don't put that on Nigerians, because he's not that. Don't put that on Senegalese people. And don't put that on foundational Black Americans. He's Haitian. Y'all was proud to claim him. Claim him now. Hold your own lineage. Hold your own filth. Hold your own nuts, right? This is what accountability is about. This is what you wanted, right? Now, people love to say it distracts from the white supremacy. We need to be going against the oppressor. You didn't go against the oppressor in your homeland. You're not even trying to do it now. Now you're in America, right? The land of milk and honey. You're free to talk about your homeland. Instead, you're talking about FBAs. FBAs oppressed us. What did they do? They called me a tether. Like, huh? You fled gang violence that was so bad that little girls were being slaughtered and graped in your homeland. And rather than speak about that on your podcast, you're speaking about someone called you a tether, but you're supposed to take that serious, right? Does that sound like something that's going to unify people? Just saying. And we've been joined by Kimberly Black. How you doing, Kimberly? I appreciate you. So, Kimberly, you're going to want to stick around for this. And actually, I'm going to just go ahead. Hold on. Because I know what I'm saying is triggering people. And what happens oftentimes is, even when I'm saying things in a very respectful, in an articulate and astute way, people get triggered, not because they can refute what I'm saying, just because they don't want me to say it. But isn't that the opposite of the accountability that people claim that they want? And think about this. Foundational Black Americans, we supposed to take accountability for everything. And we do. We hold ourselves accountable more than anyone else. There's this myth and misnomer. The Black community needs to hold itself accountable. And how many times do I got to say this? If there's some rusty, crusty, musty, dusty nigga in Oakland, Chicago, or St. Louis that does a drive-by, that sells some drugs, that forcibly penetrates them, how am I going to hold this person accountable when I don't even know who the hell they are? And most of these people are being held accountable. They're being held accountable by the only governing body that has the authority to hold them accountable, the DOJ. They're being sentenced and given a lot of time. That's accountability. What more do you want after that? Someone does a crime. That's what they say. They say you do the crime, you do the time. It's not you do the crime and you do a podcast. No, you do the crime, you do the time, and then somebody does a podcast about the crime. No, that's not how it goes. You do the crime, you do the time. And you don't have authority to make these people do the time. So guess what? The people who had authority held them accountable and they did the time. There's nothing else to see here. There's nothing left to talk about. Instead, we got to have a long conversation. What about fatherless homes? Did you grow up in a fatherless home? No, but let's talk about it, huh? Why? You didn't grow up in a fatherless home. You're not raising your kids in the fatherless home. So why are you whining about fatherless homes? And then the whole fatherless homes thing is another misnomer. They fixate on having kids out of wedlock. But then a lot of these school shooters, guess what? They were born in wedlock. So you have nothing to say about the mass shooters who were born in wedlock, who are slaughtering people, but then you want to talk about black women's promiscuity and black men's irresponsibility because y'all having all these kids out of wedlock. Out of wedlock doesn't mean that there's no dad in the house, right? My mom had me out of wedlock my whole time. There was always a man in the house all the way into my adulthood. But on paper, my mom was single because she was unmarried. So y'all got to start approaching these conversations with a little bit more nuance. In the ideal world, yeah, sure. You will want to, love and marriage, be married with children, to death do us part, and all this stuff. But we don't live in a perfect utopia. And the same, and think about this, the same MGTOW morons and maniacs, the red pill retards, right? The same people that love to talk about kids out of wedlock. Now they're telling people like, hey, young men, get a vasectomy. Hey, young men, don't get married. Okay, so if you're telling these young men not to get married, but then you got Elon Musk and Tucker Carlson saying we need more white babies, right? So you're saying that you need more white babies because the immigrants are taking over, and the blacks and the Jews, right? You know what I mean? So you want these people to have more kids, but on the same time, you're also telling them to not get married because women are gonna run you through the ringer. Like, what are these people even talking about? And these are the people that some people are looking to for advice. The same people whining about kids out of wedlock is telling young men to get a vasectomy and don't get married. Make it make sense. You can't, because it doesn't. These are the red pill retards that many people are following. I'm from the manosphere. No, you're from the coonosphere, the clownosphere, the quackosphere. And I'm not saying that, hey, there may not be some useful information by some content creators, but overall, most of that content comes from a lot of whiny, pathetic men who couldn't get women in their heyday. And then now that they have money, they think that, hey, my money could buy me happiness. But guess what? Your money can't buy you respect because you can't copy respect. It's something that you have to earn. And it's not something that I demand, it's something that I command. The king of the jungle doesn't go around with a shirt saying they're the king of the jungle. They don't even announce that they're the king of the jungle. By their presence, it commands that authority, right? The man of the house doesn't need to announce, hey, you know that I'm the man of the house, right? You knock on your kid's door. Don't forget, little Bobby, little Billy, I'm the king of the house. Are you? If you have to say that, are you really the king of the house? I'm just saying. And I appreciate you listening, Kimberly, but anybody, hey, the link is out there. If you want to just have a discussion or if you got smoke, I'm not ducking the intellectual phase. You said, I notice most of your subject matters are based on the distractions that they use in society keep us from looking at the real boogeyman. Well, what is the real boogeyman? Because, you're talking about, you're making accusations. And actually, do you have a channel, right? Because you can make your own content, right? Because I don't know, this sounds like a little passive aggressive comment. So just clarify what you're saying. But you can make your own subject matters. If you think that there's a real boogeyman that I didn't address, have you addressed the real? Matter of fact, what's your page? What's the real boogeyman that you addressed? I'll pull it up right now since you want to talk about the real boogeyman. McDowell, could you point me to a video that you've made about the real boogeyman? Because a lot of times people say, hey, people should do this, right? People should pick up trash. Like, have you picked up any trash in your neighborhood? No, but people should pick up trash. But you haven't picked up any. People should talk about this. They should talk about that. Okay, show me your content talking about that. Oh, well, I haven't talked about it yet. Okay, so why are you telling people what they should do? So McDowell, let me know. I'll pull this up right now. Let me know what content you've made about the real boogeyman so I could pull it up. And no, my blood pressure isn't up over things. I'm giving commentary, right? So don't make assumptions, right? So like I said, your comments are kind of coming off passive aggressive, and the link is right down there, bro. Let me drop the link one more again, bro, because maybe it's just the text, maybe you're very, genuine with what you're saying. I'm just saying the way it comes off passive aggressive. So that's why I'm dropping the link so you can come up here and clear whatever you got to say. But I would love to hear your content about the real boogeyman, and I can pull it up right now. I can share the screen, but if you don't have any content about the real boogeyman, yikes. That's what I'm saying. Frank Nitty, I don't know. I dropped the link. I don't know. There's no profile pic. And then it's like, talk about the real boogeyman, but you won't even say what the real boogeyman is. You're being very vague and nebulous, and you have no content about the boogeyman. And Melanated sees it, right? As always, like, hey, man, why won't you make content about the establishment? Have you made content about that? Crickets, silence. I'm talking about this person right here. This person. So let me read it again. This person, McDowell, says, I noticed that most of your subject matters are based on distractions that they use in society to keep us from looking at the real boogeyman. I mean, you should have named the real boogeyman. You should have said, in society that keeps us from looking at the real boogeyman, which is X, Y, and Z. Instead, you give this mysterious, dramatic, dun, dun, dun cliffhanger. Okay, cool. My bad, right? Hold on. Here, this is for you, McDowell, because, you know, you want me to talk about the boogeyman. I'm so sorry. So here you go, McDowell.
Talo. Sorry.
Sorry that I'm not talking about the real boogeyman, but McDowell, I'm still waiting. All you got to do is either hit the link or drop a link. Do one or the other, bruh. Hit the link or drop a link. Drop a link where you're talking about the real boogeyman so I can pull it up in real time. You're talking about the real boogeyman. Drop a real link so I can pull it up in real time. Otherwise,
You niggas. Every day the same shit. Damn,
I'm just saying. But shout out to Melanated and, of course, Tay-Bay. Tay-Bay. Salute to Tay-Bay. Appreciate you. Hey, Frank Nitty, I'm still waiting. And shout out to Edward Thompson. I appreciate you. And shout out Melanated. Hit your boy on the Cash App if you're feeling generous. But if you're unable or unwilling, don't trip. It won't cost you a fee. The likes are free. Oh yeah, it could be that, but yeah, you know, I got it simultaneous. So but that's why I pulled it up and read it for you. But appreciate the viewership, John. Now let's get back into this thing. Give me uno momento. Now, this is what they love to say. And this is recent, right? Because they weren't always saying this. Before they were saying, I know black. Now they went from I know black, Papi. I'm not black, I'm Nigerian. I'm not black, I'm Haitian. I'm not black, I'm Igbo. I'm not black, I'm Yoruba. Why y'all call yourselves black? Black is just a color, right? That's what they always used to say. Now they're saying, we all black. Hold on, I thought you said black was just a color. Now you're saying we're all just a color? They were saying we have no identity or no culture because black is just a color. But now they're claiming that color that they were shaming us about. Okay. So they love to say all black people, we share the same struggle. No, we don't. Now, there are partially true elements of this statement, genetically, culturally, but false, and false means not true, for U.S. legal and political inheritance. Slavery in the U.S. created a specific constitutional and remedial questions. The 14th Amendment, the Freedmen's-Bureau legacy. African/Caribbean histories differ. There were different colonizers. There was different independence movements, right? So when they talk about 1804, yeah, I can't claim 1804 in Haiti, right? Just as well as they can't claim that they went through Jim Crow, right? Just as well as a Chinese person can't claim that they went through Japanese internment, right? Just as well as someone that was colonized by the French can't claim to be colonized by the Spanish. You was colonized, I was colonized. It's the same. No, it's not. It's different. And we don't need to pretend that one was worse, one was better. We're just saying that it's different. I think that's enough. It's not a oppression Olympics to say that, hey, we've been through more. What we're saying is what we've been through was different. Literally, you were colonized by French. It's a whole different language, culture, and custom. You can't say that it's the same when as an entirely different language, culture, and custom. No one thinks that France is the same as Spain, but that's essentially what you're saying. Haitians colonized by French is the same as Mexicans being colonized by Spaniards. Okay. Why are you trying to collapse everyone's struggle? You know what I mean? It's just like saying, hey, someone had their, limbs amputated and, perished that way, and someone had their head blown off. It's all the same because, they both died. No, it's not the same. It's okay to say things are different. It's okay to be specific about things, right? So, a broader truth-seeking view. Intra-group tensions are human nature under resource competition and identity politics. Social media amplifies the loudest, most hostile voices, status seeking, not representative. So many of these people are status seeking, also means clout chasing. So many of these people are clout chasing. They're doing this for clicks, views, and clout. They're not doing this for a constructive conversation. They're not building anything. Most of these people are babbling, not building. And when you present the evidence of what you have built, then people don't even want to support it. They'll be like, oh, okay, yeah. They want to scrutinize it. And it's like, okay, fine, you want to scrutinize it. What do you have to counter what I've built, right? I've done a backpack drive on my own with my own money. What have you done to counter that? I've mentored and actually I got a pro, and I'm going to do a stream where I highlight this, right? And shout out to this sister, a sister named Audra, right? I ain't gonna say her full name, but she said that she will help. She's I think she's either a accountant or a financial advisor. She told me that she would give financial literacy courses for free. I told her that I was going to do like a seminar for the young people that I want to do, the young men that I'm mentoring. And she said, you know what, I'll do it for free. So even if she didn't do it for free, there was a time where I paid someone. I said, how much would you charge me an hour to just talk about financial literacy? I had 3 hours. 2 hours of it was, 1 hour was like a lecture, the other hour was like a Q&A, and the other hour was mingling, refreshments, photos and stuff, right? This is all stuff I just did off the top. All stuff that hey, if you think you can do it bigger than me, then like, why haven't you done it? And everything that I said is just surface level. There's more stuff that I've done, and a lot of this stuff I didn't even document, but now I'm going to document this stuff and do a lot of IRL streaming, because a lot of people are in the era where if you don't show everything that you did, people don't believe it. But then if you do show everything you did, then people try to say, you're clout chasing, right? So if I go feed the homeless and then I film it, then they're like, man, you clout chasing. But then if I don't film it, then they be like, man, you just saying anything. There's no proof that you did that. So it's kind of like a damned if you do, damned if you don't. So for me, it's not really to like, hey, nana, nana, boo, boo, look what I'm doing. It's like, nah, it's really to inspire, but to show that we all we got, we all we need. And, there's a lot of interesting people out there. Just because some people, not all homeless people have an equal situation, right? I've been homeless before, but it was a voluntarily homeless situation. I had a van that had a bed in the back. Most of the times I was working. So I'm here, I'm at an establishment, 10, 12 hours. I got a bed that I can just go sleep. I can drive to any city. You know what I mean? If I really needed to, I can get a hotel room. Obviously, I had a very a very stable roster. So, if I needed to go crash at a spot, you feel me? If the Brodies, you know what I mean? And I did that voluntarily, because it's like, why am I going to pay X amount of dollars for rent? I'll save those thousands of dollars. I was paying so much for rent to just barely be home and sleep. So I was paying rent, cable, and all this stuff. It's like, you know what? I'm gonna get me one of these vans and I'm gonna sleep out that, right? I can't pretend like my situation was the same as a homeless person that's living under a bridge. You know what I mean? But there's ways to understand the nuance of people's situation without like trying to conflate and collapse everything as the same struggle. Like, no, it's not. Now, most people of any background get along in daily life. FBAs making specific claims for their lineage is legitimate ethnic advocacy akin to others. Equating it to war or real slaughter is hyperbolic and counterproductive. Conflating race with citizenship, history muddies policy, reparations, immigration, affirmative action, right? So, like I said, you can't immigrate into a lineage. Right now, if I immigrate and I live in Jamaica for 50 years, I'll be a Jamaican citizen, but I won't have Jamaican lineage. And that will be perfectly fine. I won't try to be like, hey, I've been here 50 years, so I'm Jamaican. No, I'm a Jamaican citizen. I don't have Jamaican lineage. But that's what people do. They come over here. Hey, I'm from Senegal and we have a similar level of melanin. So I'm just like you. I'm Black American and I can assume your identity. And our struggle was all the same. Like, how was it the same? And you came over here in 2005. You know what I mean? So we focus on verifiable lineage for targeted remedies where justified, while allowing voluntary alliances. Exaggerating online spats as existential war serves engagement algorithms more than truth or progress. Real armed conflicts deserve separate attention with accurate scale. Now, that's not what they're doing. They're not talking about the real online conflicts, but like I told y'all, this one would be a doozy. Let's get into those armed conflicts, right? It's a diaspora war. No, it's not. When have you even used, John, have you ever used that term diaspora? Do you even truly know the definition of the term diaspora? People are just now using the term and then they're talking about it's a war. How is it a war when many people don't even know what a diaspora is? They'll say they've heard the word, but they can't coherently explain what a diaspora is. So how is there a war against the unknown? Now let's talk about currently, right? This isn't in a distant time. This isn't in no hieroglyphic time. Let's talk about now. This has been going on since April 2023. What year is it? It's not 2023 anymore. It's 2026, almost 2027. In this conflict, which is an actual civil war, someone calling you an African booty scratcher, which no one's used that term anymore. Someone calling you an African booty scratcher or a tether is not a war. But guess where there is a war? In North Africa. Where are the pan goofies? Where are the scam Africanists that's talking about this? Yeah, they'll mention it, but then they're more talking about free Palestine. Okay, fine, free Palestine, but what about Sudan? Where's the free Sudan chats? They'll say free Palestine 100 times, and then they'll sprinkle in, almost forgot. What's that other place that starts with an S? What's that place again? Y'all remember? Oh yeah, free Sudan. They'll say free Palestine to their blue in the face. And some are saying the conditions in Sudan are worse than Palestine. Depends on who you ask and who's reporting it. And this is not to do an oppression Olympics, but these people try to say injustice anywhere is an injustice everywhere. What about the injustice in Sudan? What about the civil war, WAR, in Sudan? Now, the parties are the Sudanese Armed Forces, the SAF, led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, versus the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces under Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. Now, what is the status of this war? It's a brutal war for control of the state. The RSF holds much of Darfur and parts of Khartoum, while the SAF retains the army's traditional strongholds in the north and the east. The conflict has fractured the country with widespread atrocities, ethnic cleansing in Darfur, and massive displacement. over 12 million displaced, tens of thousands killed, famine conditions in multiple regions. Where is this going on in America? Where is what FBAs are doing this to Sudanese people? What FBAs are displacing Africans? What FBAs are unaliving tens of thousands of Africans? What FBAs are starving other Africans to the point of famine? Guess who's doing that? Other Africans are doing that to each other. What about African on African crime? Is anyone saying that? What about Arab, right? They love to call them Middle Eastern. Okay, what about Middle Eastern on sub-Saharan crime? Is anyone talking about that? North Africans don't even want to call themselves African. They're literally African, but no, I'm not African. I'm Middle Eastern, right? Which is a made-up term, just like sub-Saharan, right? A made-up geographical term that's turned into an ethnic pseudo-racial term. But there's no race called Middle East. There's no race called Arabic. There's no race called Muslim. So let's talk about Libya. Oh, and then when we talk about the international dimension, there's multiple external factors that fueling the war. The UAE is widely accused of arming the RSF, while Egypt and Saudi Arabia and others back the SAF. Repeated ceasefire talks in Jeddah and Geneva have failed. So there's other surrounding quote unquote Muslim, Arabic, Middle Eastern states that are funding the displacement of other groups. This is happening on the continent of Africa. And they're talking about Pan-Africanism, and then you got God Flea having a 154 podcast, and what is supposed to be one continent, 54 countries, and it's supposed to be about unifying Africa, but all they talk about is FBAs and how we don't know. Y'all need to check y'all roots to Africa. None of my roots go to Africa, right? But you keep trying to convince me that because Alex Haley made a movie called Roots, which was fictional, by the way. It was a depiction of some things that happened, but they added some movie spin in it. It was fictional, right? So because I watch Roots, I'm supposed to be like, see, this is your story. But no one in my family was like, nah, that wasn't my story. Like, that was just a movie. That was just a show. But because they showed it on TV, no, the Roots is your story. No, your name isn't Dijon. Your name isn't Jamal. Your name isn't, your name was Kunta. Your name was Dikembe. No, it wasn't. We came up with our own names. No matter how much you like the names, you can think the names was ghetto. You can think Marquavius is ghetto. You can think Shakwanisha is ghetto. Watermelonisha is ghetto. Jamal, Tyrone, right? You can think all of these names are ghetto. Fine. But what if I said Dikembe was ghetto, right? What if I said Abasola was ghetto, right? I don't think that, but what if I did, right? Or forget ghetto. What if I said it was goofy? Fine. Marquavius is goofy, Glocktavius is goofy, and so is Dikembe, right? That sounds pretty goofy to me. I mean, since you want to play the game, do we want to play the game or do we don't? If you don't want to play the game, then just stop with the BS rhetoric. So let's talk about Libya, a protracted militia. And guess who helped, exacerbate the slave trade in Libya? You would guess it. The head tether in charge, Barack Obama. Yes. Do you know what they did to Gaddafi? He was paraded through the streets and he was sodomized with bayonets, meaning they were sticking sharp objects up his booty hole until he died. No, pause. No, it's no pause because that's what happened. They put his life on pause by sodomizing him with sharp objects up his booty. I mean, is that humane? Is that Christian? This is a wild Christian nation. What is Christian about that? Guess who presided over that? You guessed it. Barack Obama. How was he any different than Trump, right? Because he says, pull your pants up, Pookie. I'm not the president of Black America. I'm the president of all America, right? So that makes him better than Trump because he's more diplomatic, because he hangs out with Jay-Z occasionally. Okay. Now, this has been going on since 2011, and Gaddafi wanted to unite his people. Gaddafi really did want to unite Africa. He really did want to bring countries together. So notice this. And it's the same thing, right? All of the foundational Black American leaders who want to bring the country together get assassinated. But then they talk about Black on Black crime, but notice the government never assassinates any gang leaders. Matter of fact, they help gang leaders, they help drug dealers, i.e., Freeway Ricky Ross. Think about this. Rather than help Martin Luther King, they assassinated him. And rather than assassinate Freeway Ricky, which I'm not advocating for, I'm just showing y'all the hypocrisy, right? They won't assassinate Rayful Edmonds. They won't assassinate Frank Lucas, but they will assassinate Fred Hampton. They will assassinate Medgar Evers, right? And then they'll complain, what about Black on Black crime? You mean the crime that you're allowing to happen? If the crime is cleaned up, guess what? They can't complain about crime. And actually, crime is at historically low levels, but guess what? They're still complaining about crime. Compare crime to the 90s, and crime now is dropped by over 50%. And they're still saying the same thing. What about Black on Black crime? Like every year, crime is dropping. But they have to pretend to you that crime is so out of control. Like, come on. Look at the numbers and crime in the 80s in the crack era. Look at crime in the 90s, and even look at crime in the early 2000s. Is nowhere near those levels. But they're whining even more about it. Now, since 2011, post-Gaddafi, there's been a lot of low-intensity civil wars. They've reemerged periodically. The last major flare-up was in 2019, 2020. These are actual wars happening in the diaspora, right? So again, they're equating this is what happened in war. This is what happened to Gaddafi. They did a coup d'etat and they took a bayonet. You know what a bayonet is? A large gun with a sharp blade on it. They took that sharp blade and shoved it up his booty hole. Pause. And they put his life on pause. And somehow people are pretending if someone called them a tether, that those two things are on par with each other. Stop with the goofiness and stop with the gaslighting of the diaspora war. Big Rig is in the chat. Big Rig, have you ever even used the term diaspora? Did you grow up hearing the term diaspora? And if you did, you didn't pay any mind to it. I'm going to go on a limb and say you didn't pay any mind when you heard that term. So now all of a sudden we're supposed to act as if we're united based on melanin and based on some diasporic fantasy. But if you ask 10 people, hey, could you define diaspora? You'll be hard pressed for 8 of them to, be able to identify what it means. Yeah, he said no, already no, bruh. I mean, it was kind of a rhetorical question. I knew this is a relatively new term that people are projecting on. It's a diaspora war. So when y'all was calling us a kata, that wasn't a diaspora war. And then we call you a tether, which is a very relatively mild term, right? That's a slur. No, it's not. And even if it was a slur, let's just say that tether is a slur. It's used in a pejorative sense, right? But I think it's in a descriptive sense, right? Y'all were the ones saying that, hey, get over being called the N-word, right? It's just a word. Plus, y'all say it in rap music. Okay, well, I'm going to make a song called Tether. Tether, right? I'm going to make a song called Tether. And once I put it in rap song, then will you stop complaining about people saying tether? You said stop tripping off nigga. Y'all say it in songs. Okay, cool. I'm going to make an album called Tether, and I'm going to say tether in every song. So then it will be on the record of a rap song saying tether. So then it should be okay for everyone to say tether, right? Because I said it in a rap song. And don't worry, I'll get some features too. I may even get some tethers to feature on there. So then it will be cool, right? the logic doesn't even hold. And yeah, it's extremely mild. Think about all the actually do I have to pull up the slurs? Do I have to pull up the slurs? Let me do this stuff, yeah, because shout out to Melanated. I love the majestic Melanated because she's on point with that. I'm trying to tell y'all, and that's why I'm gonna continue to use the term. Yes, I will continue to call you a tether because a tether is a descriptive term. You're not a tether just because you have a different ethnic or racial background. You are a tether based on your behavior, just like someone is a Sambo and a raccoon based on their behavior. If you vote Democrat, you're not a Sambo virtually by solely by virtue voting Democrat, and the same thing with a Republican or a conservative. However, if you behave as a Sambo, stepping, fetching, tap dancing, throwing your lineage and your community under the bus for a political apparatus, for an establishment, for the oligarchy, then yes, that is Sambo-esque, and you will be called out. We are the ones who call out our people, right? Which is why we came up with the term. Okay, think about this. What is the Haitian term for calling out their sellouts? What is the Nigerian term for calling out their sellouts? You should know it, right? Because there's a bunch of Haitian sellouts, just as like there's a bunch of Black American sellouts. There's a bunch of Nigerian sellouts. There's a bunch of Senegalese sellouts. There's a bunch of white sellouts selling out the white community. A bunch of Asian sellouts selling out the Asian community. We came up with a term derogatory to let you know that these people all kinfolk ain't skinfolk. What's the African term to call out their sellouts? We should know it, right? We all Black, we all African, so why don't no one know the term? And if you do know the term, why aren't you using it? Because you guys got a lot of sellouts. So I mean, what are we talking about here? So let me go ahead and pull this up real quick. Give me one moment. And shout out to Mantis. You keeping it 100, bro. Keep up the good work. I appreciate Mantis. And that profile pic you got is fire. That looks like a autochthonous, indigenous, Black melanated person, bro. That's a pretty fire avatar that you got. So Philly, oh, salute to Philly. Hey, I had one of my other Philly Bulls, so salute to the Philly Bull. What's up with it? Hey, are you? Oh, you in the? I should have seen the 215. It looked different, but yeah. So what part of Philly you from? My you from hold on. Hell no. As soon as I come on, this nigga all on the screen. Hey, hold on, Chad T. Hold on, nigga. I don't like the energy you came in on. Chad T. Hey, salute to the brother. But Chad T, I gotta hit you.
What? How please? Nigga, please. How?
Nigga, what? Nigga, please.
Nigga, please. What?
Come on, Chad T. And I hope you hit the like button, man. And you feel me, wiped your feet before you come in. But salute to Chad.
How please? Nigga.
Like so what part of West Philly? Is that where Meek? Okay, respect to you, bro. I appreciate that, Chad. But salute to Chad choosing T. Is it chosen or choosing? I think it's chosen. And you said Larry Elder. What about Larry Elder? Larry Elder is a Sambo. Oh yeah, that I get what you're saying. Like you were saying, Larry Elder is of the lineage, but we call him out. Jesse Lee Peterson is of the lineage, but we call them out. Where is the platform of these people who are non-freedmen calling out their own people? If they do so, for instance, God Flea is Nigerian, right? But he'll try to say, oh, he'll give a vague call out. Yeah, I protect both communities and blah, blah, blah. He won't do a deep analysis about the entrenched anti-blackness in his community, right? But then he'll want us to do a deep dive calling out each other. And we do that all the time. We got a bunch of homegrown Sambos, Charleston, Coonston White, Officer Fakeums, uh, the Hodge Coon twins, which I don't think they're of the lineage, but they are at least American. But whether you like these people or not, Jesse Lee Peterson, the Bussy Warrior, right? These people are quote unquote holding the black community accountable. Anton Kuntan Daniels, right? So these people are holding the community accountable. But where are the people holding their respective nations and ethnicities accountable? You won't see it, right? You won't see Haitians specifically holding Haitians accountable, right? I'm talking about regularly or in mass, collectively, right? It's all under this flat blackness of what black communities need to do. You're talking about little Haiti. You live in little Haiti. You need to talk about what little Haiti needs to do. Don't talk about the black community at large when you live in a segregated enclave called Little Haiti. You live in a segregated enclave called Little Havana. That's not about the people of color community. It's not about the black community. That's about your specific ethnic enclave. When Chinatown is speaking about Chinatown, they're not talking about what Filipinos are doing because they live in an ethnic Chinese enclave. So when you live in a Jamaican enclave, you live in an African enclave, why are you even talking about freedom when you know that you worked your way to make sure that, you live in a NIMBY neighborhood, right? That's why these neighborhoods are able to be Hasidic Jew. How could you have a neighborhood of all Jews? You're redlining and you're specifically creating the separatist condition so that you have a neighborhood. There's no neighborhood that should be a little Mexico. This is in Mexico. Chinatown, is this China? But you're supposed to be okay with that. You're supposed to be okay with Chinese people having an area of the city that's ethnically reserved for them. But when I say, hey, you know what? Hey, I tip my hat to that. So now I want an area of the city specifically ethnically preserved and reserved for freedom. There's racism. There's reverse racism. So everyone has to live around us. Everyone has to come set up shop us. What are the black-owned businesses in Chinatown? Show me the Hispanic neighborhoods that have a black and brown business, right? They love to say that black and brown, black and brown. Where's the black and brown businesses? Where are the people of color businesses? So if there's no businesses and all ethnicities are on their own and everyone is telling each other to hold their own nuts, and then we say, hey, you know what? My bad. We were disillusioned. We had our head in the sand. We gonna hold our own nuts and you got to do the same. Wait, you're being xenophobic. You're being xenophobic for treating them how they treated you. And actually you're treating them more respectful than they ever treated you. And still you're somehow framed as the boogeyman. So once you stop being the doormat, once you stop getting pissed and pooped on, then suddenly people think that you're the big bad boogeyman, but they can't tell you what you've done to oppress them. So you say, you made me look up hearing for years of population dispersed across multiple regions outside its geographical place of origin. It refers to communities of people who have left their ancestral homeland, but continue to maintain strong cultural, political, religious, or emotional ties to their roots while integrating in new societies. So is that the terminology? So you said, I'm tired of all these flags in this country. If you're not American in my country, put the flag down. And shout out to the Philly Bulls over there, because Phillies, they have been literally just inundated with just an influx of just like a gang of Latinos. Like it wasn't just a bunch of Mexicans there. And then with Biden opening the border, they just flooded the gates in Philly, right? Philly was one of the like a black stronghold, and there still is a sizable black population there, but they've tried to work to dilute the population to where they displace it, right? There's no Asian neighborhoods that are being displaced by black people. There's no Hispanic neighborhoods that are being displaced by black people. However, there are black neighborhoods that are being displaced by Hispanics. And then they keep framing it. Well, we're all minorities. We're all people of color, so that you get desensitized to your neighborhoods being displaced, or you get desensitized to like, oh, damn, there's an Asian nail shop. There's a Arabic liquor store. There's a Hispanic taqueria stands, right? All of these people who allegedly, how could someone come to a place with allegedly $2 in their pocket and then within 2 months they have a business? It's because they worked hard, right? So they couldn't have worked hard to create a taco stand in their own country, but then they can come to an entirely more expensive place in a record amount of time. They can create something that they weren't able to create in their homeland, speak in their native tongue around their own people. It just doesn't make any sense. They don't want to talk about the NGOs. They don't want to talk about how what they do is the government funnels monies to NGOs to displace people. The whole concept of a model minority is an immigrant who does what the dubs want them to do, right? It's like, here, you be a good little boy. The model minority is juxtaposed to FBAs. Don't be like those FBAs. Don't be like the niggas over there, the rowdies. You can be a model minority. And many of them was like, yes, massa, we're not like them. I know black, I'm better. And then these same groups complain when Trump calls their place a shithole, when Trump is deporting their people and stuff, because they thought that, hey, we were sticking it to the blacks by siding with them. It's like, no, but they don't like y'all either. All of those loans, all of those goodies, giveaways, and guarantees, they gave them to you contingent upon displacement of the black community. All they want is a more subservient community and to, pull the veil over. This isn't a racist community. Look at these Latinos doing good. Look at these Asians doing good. You're a buffer group. You're supposed to be doing better than us, but never better than them. So when these other groups try to challenge power, hey, remember, I'm the model minority. I'm the model minority. They're like, yeah, but you ain't white, right? You're above the niggas. Be happy with that. But unfortunately, many of them are not happy with that. They have, delusions of grandeur, and they have aspirations, for, more upward mobility. But then, there's something called a bamboo ceiling. That's not my term, where certain Asians, no matter how smart they are, they can only rise to certain levels of power because their Asian, their Asiatic nature is seen as inherently docile. Like, yeah, you want Asians working for you. You want them to be the bookworms. You want them to be, the logistics. But you're like, man, I don't want them leading anything. And this is not my determination. This is what the Fortune 500 companies say. So now the Asians, they start mad. Well, we want to cancel affirmative action, right? It's like, okay, you think you're sticking it to the blacks by canceling affirmative action, but affirmative action mainly benefited white women. If it mainly benefited white women, it mainly benefited the white family. Most white women are married to white men. So a boost for them is a boost for the white family. After that, it's a bunch of non-black people. And then the quote unquote black people that affirmative action mainly did benefit were a bunch of African immigrants. Because, and they've said this, right? They said that they found out that, hey, they're considered racially black, right? There's a loophole. Hey, this person is from Senegal. They're African and they have American citizenship. They're African American. So they decide to like recruit a bunch of Nigerians and a bunch of non-FBAs to fill the affirmative action quotas. Same thing with DEI. They do all of this stuff and pretend as if it helped us. But none of this stuff ever benefited us. If we did receive anything, it was half of a crumb that fell off the table. All of these other people had seats at the table, placed at the table. They told you to stand by the table and you can get the crumb that falls off after the table. But this was all done on the back of you. Your family fought, bled, died here. We fought in all of the wars here. All of the wars that your family fought for was here. It wasn't in Africa. But you're still supposed to look for the motherland. Huh? So imagine you were battle tested in Philly. Mantis, right? You did all of your dirt in Philly. You did all of your philanthropy in Philly, but you got to give all the credit to Africa, a place you've never been. It doesn't make any sense, right? All of your cultural swag in Philly. No, you owe that to Africa. You start rapping on the block. You learn how to rap from Africa. How? So yeah, I mean, I'm tired of it too, right? Because, and this is the thing, you know what? I'm actually not tired. Well, I was tired of it and I do got tether fatigue, but this is the thing. Lead with your lineage. How about that, right? because I am a foundational Black American freedman. I'm not better than you just because that's my lineage. Our lineage is different. So lead with yours. Don't try to cosplay and tether. We all the same. And then we win award. I pull up an American flag and you pull up a Nigerian flag. It's like, bro, I thought we were the same. No, we just have a similar level of melanin, but I'm different. I'm Nigerian. So if you're going to say that you're different anyways, just say that you're different now. Look at the Haitians, right? When Haitians come over here, they're considered Black. They're considered African American. But they're not talking about that they're deporting Black people. They're not talking about that they're deporting African Americans. They're deporting Haitians. They're making the distinction. So if you know how to make the distinction when it's time for deportation, why aren't you making the distinction during immigration? When they immigrate here, they're Haitian. No, they're Black, they're African American. No, they immigrated, they're Haitian, they're Nigerian, right? But then when they get deported, then suddenly you remember who they are. Oh, those aren't Black people being deported, those are Nigerians. Okay. They didn't become Nigerian when they got deported. They were Nigerian when they immigrated here. They were Nigerian when they lived here. And if they happen to get deported, they'll still be Nigerian then. And when they get back to Nigeria, guess what? They're Nigerian. So clearly, this whole deportation and TPS fiasco is showing you that all of these groups understand delineation. You said that. I feel that too. A lot of these Pakistani and Indian people have overtook places too. And this is what I'm trying to say. It's because people have had their head in the sand trying to pretend, oh, we're all the same. We're all minorities. We're all people of color. And they're coming over here to dominate you. They're not coming over here to befriend you. They're not coming over here saying, hey, we're both non-white. Let's stick together. Their bread and butter, their bread is being buttered by the dominant society. So all they're seeing you is as a stepping stool, a means to an end. So they're not coming over here to unite with you. And instead, you over here talking about white supremacy. White supremacy. Yeah, white supremacy has minions. Some of them are FBA. Some of them are African. Some of them are Caribbean, Pakistani, Chinese, Koreans. That's the whole point of the dominant society. They dominate the hearts, minds, and spirits of many people, and it corrupts the minds and gets people to sell out their own progeny, their own community for the sake of getting close to white mommy and daddy. And some people, they're not just butt kissers, they're crack lickers. They spread the cheeks and lick up and down and all around. And these are the people that you're pretending we're allies, we're minorities. They'll say minorities to use you as a stepping stool. Minority this, people of color that. And then as soon as it's time to get to the table, hey, we need to do something for Mexicans. We need to do something for Latinos. We need to do something for Hindus. It's like, hold on. I thought this was about people of color and marginalized groups. They're like, yeah, shut up, nigga. Like, I'm part of a marginalized group. I'm Hindu. I'm Muslim. I'm Gazan. I'm free Palestine. It's like, bro, we were talking about Black issues, and then now we're talking about free Palestine and trans issues. Nothing saying there's wrong with that, but like, don't try to conflate that, right? You're talking about a kitchen table issue, and somehow a trans issue is supposed to be a kitchen table issue for you. You know what I mean? Opening the border, because hey, they're just doing the jobs that no one wants to do, and it's just a lie. No one will do construction. No one will do landscaping. No one will clean windows. No one will work fast food. No one will pick fruit. It's just a flat out lie. And there's no industry that's dominated by illegal undocumented immigrants. Now you can say they're disproportionate in certain industries, but the highest representation of them in any industry is 30%. So that would mean that the other 70% are native born people doing the jobs. So you can't tell me no one will do the job, and then 70% of Americans are willing to do the job. Yeah, no one will do the job. It's almost like this. Imagine it's a hoe on the blade, right? And then she was like, hey, my rate is $300, right? And then you said, hey, I want to offer you $40, right? And she say, hell no, I ain't doing it for $40. And then you say, hey, well, this undocumented immigrant that did it for $40 is because nobody wanted to do the job. Nobody wanted to sell their cooch. No, it's a bunch of chicks selling their cooch. They didn't want to sell it for $40. Won't you tell the whole story? It's a bunch of people that are farming. They don't want to farm for $2 in a bag of Takis. They don't want to farm for $3 and some elote. So no. And just back to my analogy of the hoes, right? Yeah, it's a chick out there selling that pretty young thing, right? But she ain't selling it for $40. $40? No. So don't try to gaslight. No, man, I only paid 40 because they just selling cooch because nobody wants to sell it. No, it's a bunch of chicks selling it. They just don't want to sell it for $40. But you said the parts of West Philly where they are destroyed is ran down like there's trash in the country is crazy. Hey, isn't there Kensington out there? I think I seen Kensington. Is that the place? Bro, it's like junkie central out there, bro. I seen the zombies and there was a bunch of like, it wasn't just all black people. It was a bunch of white like junkies. They were like leaning over. It literally looked like the Walking Dead out there, bro. If you still in here, Mantis, bro, like, is that the place in Kensington? Bro, if y'all ain't seen Kensington, bro, it looks disgusting. And meanwhile, they're over sending not thousands, not millions, billions and billions over to Israel. Meanwhile, you got Philly really is looking like a straight hellhole. And you said it's sad. Shout out to Melody. It's sad and rather disgusting. And shout out to Melanated the Majestic, because that's on period with a capital T. Let's get back into this thing, though. Hold on. Let me pull this back up. So I'm going to kind of breeze through some of these other wars. So, again, I don't want to hear y'all using that goofy term, the Diaspora War. Like, no, it's not a war. If you want to talk about wars, talk about the actual wars that are going on. Let's talk about Western Sahara. Now, this is a low-intensity war, which they say Morocco versus the Polisario Front. Now, there's a ceasefire that collapsed in November 2020. The parties involved is Morocco versus the Polisario Front, backed by Algeria. The Polisario resumed guerrilla attacks against the Moroccan forces along the sand wall. Morocco conducts drone strikes and artillery shelling, right? So again, if someone is calling you a pejorative term, if someone is saying that, hey, you fled your country, right? Maybe these are insensitive and inflammatory things to say. Maybe it's insulting. An insult is not the same as a drone strike. In war, people are getting drone struck. What would you rather have? Someone striking you with a drone or someone calling you a tether, right? In a perfect world, neither would happen, right? But hey, call me a tether all day. Tether. Call me a tether all day. Tether palooza, tether mania. I don't give a fudge. It's not the same as a war. Now, this remains a low-level attritional war with little movement on the front line. Diplomatic tensions between Morocco and Algeria remain high. Egypt, the Sinai insurgency remnant. This has been since 2011. It peaked around 2015. So this is still going on. But it's the Egyptian military versus ISIS Sinai province, the Wilayat Sinai. Now, vastly diminished by major counterinsurgency operations, sporadic IEDs, bombs, ambushes, and executions. Calling you a tether isn't an execution. So still occur, but it's no longer a large-scale conflict. The North Sinai is still under heavy military lockdown. This isn't in no ancient hieroglyphic times. This is in modern day. The West Africa and Sahel, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, jihadist insurgencies, the Central Sahel War since 2012, Mali, in 2015, Burkina Faso, gradual expansion. The parties involved, Al-Qaeda, the affiliate Jamaat Nusrat al-Islam wal Muslimin, and the Islamic State Sahel province versus national armies, foreign forces, which have now largely withdrawn, and Russia African corps like the Wagner mercenaries. Now, the region has been the epicenter of global terrorism fatalities. All three countries are under military juntas that expelled French and UN forces and turned to Russia. Now, this is what's unfortunate, right? They expelled some Western powers, but then they were like, here, they kicked white mommy and daddy out, right? But then they turned to Russia and said, hey, you guys are going to be my new white mommy and daddy. And it's framed as independence, but it's not really like that. But hey, they're doing what they believe is best to turn their country around. I don't agree with everything, but I do agree with them kicking, these powers out. I do believe in Ibrahim Traore and the others that are standing on business for their community, for their lineage, for their country, but you have to do it there. Shout out the bro in the chat, right? The Philly bull in the chat, right? If you want to stand on Philly business, you have to do it from Philly. You can't say I'm in Utah, but I'm standing up from Philly. In Ogden, Utah, in Salt Lake City, Utah. Nah, bruh. You don't gotta like BB Netanyahu, but BB Netanyahu is standing on business for Israel in Israel. The only reason why he's as effective as he is, and he's a bit too effective with his genocidal proclivities, he's effective because he's in the country, standing on business. Think about the parents, right? How much authority do you have over your kids if you're standing on business through a Zoom meeting? Oh, I'm going to hold you accountable through a Zoom meeting. Is that going to be the same as you being a present parental figure in the house? You know it's not the same. So yeah, to stand on business for your community, you need to be of and in the community. For your city, of and in the city. You know what I mean? So you don't need to be there 24/7, but you do need to be there the majority of the time. So jihadist groups control vast rural areas, encircle towns, and conduct mass casualty attacks. Burkina Faso's government controls maybe 40 to 50% of its territory. So imagine you're in a country, right? The country is supposed to be 100% yours, but you only control 40% of it. Do you really have a country, or do you have a territory? Now, the violence has spilled into northern Benin, Togo, Ghana, and Ivory Coast, with increasingly frequent attacks there. Where's the Pan-Africanism? Why aren't they all standing together to dispel and eradicate these jihadist forces? You know why? Because they're too busy delineating. They're too busy being divisive, right? The Ghanaians aren't saying that they're the same as the Ivory Coast people. They're all African. The people from Benin aren't saying that they're the same as someone from Togo. They're all African. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso is in the same Sahel region. And guess what? They're all saying they're different. But if someone from Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, they come over here, we all the same. But when they're in the motherland, they're all different. They're different in the motherland, and then they come here and we're all the same. Huh? No one believes that. They don't even believe that. And when they pretend that they do, it's only for to gain something advantageous. The cultural currency is with being black. That's why people want to try to have a flat blackness. Hey, I'm black just like you. It's like, no, actually you're not, because you spent your whole life saying, stop identifying yourself as a color. But now you're like, oh, damn, well, I'm not really getting any benefits of saying that I'm Ghanaian. I'm not getting any benefits of saying that I'm from Burkina Faso, but I can get a benefit. I can get some clout by saying I'm black. Okay. You didn't stand up for anything black. They don't have any institutions that have anything to do with black in their homeland. What is the term for black? And if you have a term for black, why aren't you using that term? You always talk about, we don't have a culture. We don't have a history. Y'all speaking a white man language. You're speaking the same language as me. You have your own language. but you don't want to speak your own language because no one would give a fig if you spoke your language. Not trying to be mean, but it's true. Otherwise, why aren't you making content speaking in your mother tongue? Right? You're so better than me because you speak your language. However, you won't make content in your mother tongue because no one would give a hoot. So how are you any better than me again? You're speaking the white man language and I have my own. Yeah, you have your own language that no one cares about. You don't even care about it. That's why you fled your homeland. You fled your homeland to speak in the same language as we speak in my homeland. And we speak our own different dialect as well. It's called Ebonics. It's called Black American Vernacular Ebonics. Now, before our language, you know, our dialect was considered, oh, y'all ghetto, y'all dumb, y'all just don't know how to pronounce stuff. But now I hear people of all races trying to talk like us. Even the term y'all is slang. Y'all comes from us. You know the proper term for y'all, you all is 2 words. You all do this. Are you all gonna come to the party versus are y'all gonna come to the party? Think of a word like finna. Is it a word? No, we made it a word. Hey, I'm going to go to the store. I'm about to go to the store. I'm finna go to the store. That's something that we came up. What are you talking about? What are you saying? What are you talking about? We have our own ways of speaking. There's nothing African about it because it was forged, cultivated, and created here based on the conditions here. And that's, unfortunately, people can't refute, but they just seem to have an issue with it. But shout out to Hood Table. Please like and share the video. She popped back in. And Melody says, I love Israel, but New Kensington's is sad. Blame immigrants in their drug. Well, I won't blame immigrants for that. And I'm not even in the business of blaming immigrants because I blame immigrants for their individual actions. I don't blame them for seeking a better life, right? Because other people are seeking a better life. Well, all I'm saying is that just because someone says they're seeking a better life, no one is owed a better life, and especially at the expense of someone else. There's a bunch of people in Philly. There's a bunch of the young Philly Bulls. They're seeking a better life, but where could they go? They love to say, what about Chicago? What about it? Where could those people in Chicago go seek a better life? So I'm supposed to worry about someone in Bogota and Tijuana seeking a better life, but no one cares about a kid from Oakland or St. Louis or Baltimore seeks a better life. They're telling you to shut up and pull yourself up by your bootstraps. So I say, fine. The kid from Oakland has to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and the migrants in Mexico need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. You can't try to say we need to favor people from Mexico, but then at the same time, shame and shun people from here, right? Because the people that are fleeing here, especially crossing the border, literally, they're broke. Someone consider dusty, right? Fine. There's a bunch of broke, dusty people crossing the border, and then there's a bunch of broke, dusty people in the hood. But the broke, dusty people in the hood are citizens. They don't want to be broke and dusty. They are willing to work. They are willing to get some money, right? But you're saying, nah, we're going to go with the broken, dusty people from a different country, right? Because they're doing the jobs that no one wants to do, which is just a flat out lie. Melody, I don't know if Melody is still in here. Melody, do you love Palestinians? Are you, do you have free Palestine tatted on you? Are you trying to globalize the intifada? Let us know, Melanie. But you say you love Israel. When you say you love Israel, are you a Zionist? Are you a Jewish person? Let us know, Melanie. And salute to Melanie. Yeah, hustle hard. Hustle real hard. Now, we don't just hustle. We hustle, we grind, we grit, we progress, we persevere, and we persist. It's just in our nature. Pressure makes diamonds. But you know what? It's not any pressure. Excruciating pressure is what makes the diamonds. Now, I can go on and on about the conflicts, but y'all do get what I'm saying, right? And actually, hold on. Let me try to let me pull this up for y'all, right? Because a lot of people try to get all triggered. They call me a tether. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, you know what group has the most slurs against them, right? You guessed it. Foundational Black Americans. Because when they say Black, they're really talking about Black Americans, but the Black Americans are the gold and the platinum standard for Blackness. You know, no offense, it just kind of is what it is, right? So they'll use these terms interchangeably to other people. However, they do have distinct terms for other people. There's a reason why they'll call you a nigga, but then they'll call some other African or Arabic person a sand nigga. Saying a sand nigga is a delineation, saying, yeah, we still see you as a nigga, but you're not like the niggas. You know what I mean? So it's not to make anyone feel better. I'm just saying, like, these people understand delineation. So Black Russian, if you call them a blushin, you know, is you think, oh yeah, kind of like Blasian, a Black Asian. Well, typically when Russians are using it, they're using it as a slur. Now, if you hear 925, and that's the area code I'm from, but even my area code, 925 is police code for a suspicious person. So a suspicious person could be anybody. But when they say 925, you know, they put a negative connotation on us. Now, Abid, this is what many Middle Eastern immigrants come to the U.S. say. It essentially means Black. It essentially means slave. So if they call you an Africant, like a, you know, Mexicant, they're saying you're an unemployed, lazy Black. An Africoon is a combination of African and coon. An Americoon, Angus. If they call you Angus, they're saying that you're a Black breed of beef cattle. They love to say that, hey, we were farm equipment. And hold on real quick. I gotta close my window because y'all hear this motorcycle. My bad. I have my window open, so I don't know if it's hella noise. So just give me hold on. Give me like 30 seconds just so I can close this window real quick. Hold up.
Be easy, he is that dude. It's plain and obvious. A certified professional, ain't never been a hobbyist. He is one of the nicest, realest, coldest, and dopest. So you should take notice. Woo! That dude, be easy. That dude, be easy. That dude, show love and support to be easy. That dude.
Be easy. Be easy. Ooh.
All right. So I'm back at it. So obviously, you know, they love to call us, you guys were farm equipment. All you did was pick cotton. Okay. Let's just say that we were just farm equipment. That's not a flex. That's saying that you were so lazy. Why didn't you pick your own cotton? Why didn't you make your own jeans and indigo, right? Why didn't you, you know, pick your own, or, you know, work on the sugar farms and plantations then, right? If we were just farm equipment and you hated us and you wanted nothing to do with us, why didn't you do your own work? Fair questions to ask. Now, some of these terms y'all like, huh? You probably never heard of them before, but don't trip. I told y'all this one would be a doozy. Now, ape is self-explanatory. They're always calling us apes. Oh, even though it's crazy because they'll say you're chimping out. And then when you look at them, many of them are like, bro, you actually really kind of do look like a chimp. You look at their lips, look at our lips. Our lips are big and full. Look at the chimp's lips, very thin. A lot of them resemble chimps, but then they call you, you're chimping out. It's like, that's actually corny, but I'll use that against them, right? All the stuff they say towards me, I use it against them. So I'll tell them that they're chimping out and how they have low impulse control, because it actually is very accurate. Many of them do have low impulse control, and a lot of them chimp out. An apple, have anyone ever been called an apple? You're an apple. Now, some of these are corny and you may not know what they mean, but just because you don't know what they mean doesn't mean that there's not a deeper, darker, sinister meaning to them. So even the concept of ashy, right? White people get ashy too, but since it's not visible, that term is not for them. The term is to talk about black people, right? So when they say ARF, do you know about this term, Roger? ARF is African rockfish. So it's a term for blacks, excuse me, it's a term for blacks basically because there's a stereotype that black people can't swim. So they're calling us African and they're saying that like you guys are rockfish, you just stay on the rocks because you can't swim. Like I said, many of these are corny and you may never heard them before, but when you do hear them, you may just be like, what the heck is dude talking about? But yeah, there's a deeper meaning behind these terms. And you have to be obsessed. Mind you, these people will say that they have fatigue of us. And these are all the disgusting slurs and epithets they come to describe us. And Aunt Jemima, you know what I mean? That's like a kind of menstrual symbolic figure for them. They call you a baboomba. Basically, it's supposed to be a slur for people that have loud car stereos. I guess I would be a baboomba because all of my cars gonna have some slap in it. Even my stock system, I had a stock system that was so slap that I was like, damn, do I really even need to pay for some extra beat? I was like, I would just be doing it just to floss. And then people would be asking me like, bro, like what size speakers you got in there? I was like, bro, those are just, I got some 4x6s up here. I got some 6x9s here. I got some tweeters here. And I got an amp running to push my interior speakers to the maximum. And some of them, bro, I can't remember. I had some Infinity ones and I had some JBL ones. Those things was slapping. And I didn't even have no woofers at the time. But yeah, a baboomba. Have you ever heard that? A baboon is a similar reference to being called an ape or a monkey. A baluba that's basically a tribe that killed Irish soldiers in Africa. So, they're still kind of triggered by that. You're a baluba. It's like, oh, okay. So hold on. And then, so there's one called a baluba, and that means that you belong to a tribe that killed Irish soldiers in Africa. And then there's a beluga, which is a Filipino equivalent to them calling you a nigga, right? So just like I said, how they have Mexicans, they'll call you a pinche mayate or something like that. So mind you, people be like, oh man, I grew up with Filipinos. It's like, no, you grew up around them. You didn't grow up with them because you didn't go to any of their parties, right? You weren't invited to any of their parties. You weren't invited to any of their weddings. You grew up in proximity to them. You didn't grow up with them, right? You didn't really do anything with them. You didn't do any crime with them. You didn't do anything constructive with them, right? You seen them at a school, right? You seen them walking past, but it's like, what did you guys really do together? What did you build together? What are the black and Filipino businesses? What are the black and Asian businesses? The black and yellow businesses? There are none. We grew up together. No, you didn't. You grew up around each other. That's not the same as growing up together. So if you hear a Filipino calling you a beluga, they just called you a nigga. It was a nigga. That's what they're calling you. Banjo lips, saying you got big lips. And it's funny, right? They're ridiculing you for having big lips. But now what do a bunch of chicks want now? Big lips. Remember Sir Mix-a-Lot? Oh my God, Becky, would you look at her butt? Now all these chicks, they don't want the flat back, flapjack pancake special. They want a big, voluptuous gluteus maximus. Bantu. So they're referring to a apartheid classification. BAP is a Black American princess, essentially arrogant, ratchet females who lost their money. They did make a movie about it. I think was Halle Berry in it. It was called BAPS or something like that. BBK, big black cocks, with the K as in the corn song. Now think about this. A black person who happens to have a large male instrument He never called he never looked down and said, "Oh, man, the Lord bless me, right? Thank my parents, they bless me. I have a big black cock." Said no black person ever. But there have been non-black people, namely white person, looking at like when they were saying, "Who's that nigga on that knee?" They wasn't saying that. They was like, "Who's that nigga over there with the BBK?" That's lightweight diabolical, right? Think about that. They say they got fatigue. However, they're coming up with slurs and acronyms for another racial group's penises. Okay. A BDN. So this comes from the movie The Green Mile. A white prisoner calls a black prisoner a BDN, a big dummy. Y'all know what the N stands for. Bear, black, educated, and rich. Now, there's nothing wrong with this. However, it could be used in a pejorative term. You're just a bear. Well, I understand if you're part of the buck, broken, brain dead boule class, but if you're a bear, black, educated, and rich, I tip my hat. We need more of it. Bebe's Kids, I love that movie. If you haven't seen Bebe's Kids, it was a classic. Now, this was a reference to the famous comic. What was the brother's name? It was Robin something. But I appreciate, bro. That was he was a good comedian, stand up as well. So they call blacks beggar, Bergie. Hold on, a bingo bongo. Okay, Bix Nud. And this is from a racist cartoon on the internet where a black man is breaking into a house saying, "Mup to do the Bix Nud." So it's kind of like them when they say the didn't do nothing, like they're trying to say like blacks are so stupid and they don't know how to actually talk. So yeah, all of these things, a biscuit lip, right? Some of these things, like if you got called this, you like, man, I'd rather get called a nigger with the hard as ER. If somebody just come through and call you a biscuit lip, man, shut up with your biscuit lip ass. This is worse than somebody saying, with your Under Armour head ass. You feel me? Or you old water jug head ass, right? But if somebody say, "Oh man, you just a little biscuit lip bingo bongo," I'm like, we gonna have to shoot the fade. We gonna have to shoot the fade. And then here they go, like, so again, they saying it's just a word. All of these are just words. But if somebody goes to your mom and calls her Blackie, or somebody goes to your daughter and calls her Blackie, they call your mom Blackie, they call your daughter a biscuit lip, and they call your son a bingo bongo. It's just a word. Okay, words have meanings. A black is just the South Africans calling you a black, but it sounds like black. The blick, what about blick on blick crime? That's what they're saying. Blue gums, an old myth that if one were bitten with blue gums, they would die. A boofer, the Hawaiians or Polynesians call blacks is. Now, what did we ever do to Hawaiians? Think about Hawaii, bro. Hawaii literally was an island colonized. There were darker, melanated indigenous people there. But guess who came and colonized them? The Lily W's. And instead of having smoke for them, they're going around calling black people boofer. Just like the Filipinos, they have a term calling us beluga, which means nigger. Hawaiians and Polynesians call us boofer, which means nigger. And even Samoans, I think it's Samoans, and shout out to the Samoans, right? They even have their own term to call us a nigger. It's called Meuli. What did we do to any of these other groups? It's funny, all these other groups call us nigger, but then they come over here and guess what they try to act like? A nigger. You guys are niggers. And then they try to act like it and still say the word. Okay. Fine. So use the terms. If they call you a nigger, call them a boofer, because that's what they're calling you in their private homes. And even if these words are archaic and some people, well, we don't use that anymore. Why did you ever come up with this term to begin with? right? All slurs matter. So if I have to call some Hawaiians and Polynesians, I may call you a boofer. I may call some of my Samoan people Meulis. You know the words that y'all call us. I may call some of my Mexicans pinche mayates. The terminologies y'all use towards us. And I can keep going. Like, bro, I have barely scratched the surface. I told you all slurs matter, right? Why should we let the N-word reign supreme? Go around calling people booged and boofers and boot lips and biscuit lips. But all you're doing is saying that, hey, it's all fair game. I don't want to hear y'all whining. He called me a tether. They call me a wetback. I got called a spick. It's like, okay, get over it. All of those are just words, right? If someone calls me a bobblehead, a boogie, a blackie, I got to get over it. Just as well if somebody calls you a slur. All slurs matter. Why should the N-word reign supreme? And we got Red 6 in the mix like Twix. Hey, this Red 6, you a funny guy. Hey, Roger Meadows, instead of where Brooklyn at, instead of the East Coast finest, I might have to say the ARF. The finest ARF on the East Coast. Shout out to Roger ARF Meadows. Appreciate you, Brody. Appreciate my boofer. What up, my boofer? And you said FBA runs yard on the paperwork. Check where your family from. Yeah. Paperwork check. Hey, if we willing to check paperworks on snitches, we willing to check paperwork on people outside of the lineage. We need to check paperwork on people who claim to be of the lineage. It's not personal, just lineage business. And we get treated worse than the Palestinians do. No outrage though. And this is what I'm trying to say. We're over here getting treated worse, but then we're supposed to say, free, free, free Palestine. And hey, I do want Palestine to be free. I want the genocide to stop. I want Sudan to be free. But if it's just a matter of numbers, I don't have enough emotional bandwidth to be standing on business for my community and fighting for trans rights and fighting for open borders and fighting for Ukrainians and fighting for Lebanese people and fighting for Israelis. Who is fighting for us? They try to say, oh, the Palestinians, they showed solidarity. And I asked them, okay, what solidarity did they show? They painted a mural of George Floyd. Okay. So many people keep trying to ride that George Floyd and BLM. We marched with BLM. It's like, yeah, marching with BLM is not doing something for the community. I went and marched, I went to some of those Palestinian protests. Shouldn't that be sufficient? But no, they want more than that, right? So it's like, how is that a kitchen table for you? If you go out in the streets and you just keep yelling free Palestine till you're blue in the face, I'm not trying to hold you. But then again, how is that going to lower gas costs? How is that going to make you put your kids through college? How is that going to, stop immigrants from taking over your neighborhood? Don't worry, I'll wait. And you said the worst thing you can ask them is, where's your family from? They hate that. Yeah. So just like now it's turned into, when you ask somebody where's their family from, that's turned into a slur. But this is what we do all the time, right? We ask people. So if I say, man, I'm from California, people be like, bro, yeah, but where at in California? I'm from Oakland. Yeah, but where at in Oakland? I'm from the East. Yeah, but where at in the East, right? You can't simply say you're from California. You got to say what city you're from. You simply can't say what city you're from. You got to say what section of the city. And then once you say what section, then they say, what block are you from? And then when you say what block are you from, you got to say who you know on that block. Oh, you from 27th and Lacey. Oh, you from Mary Mack and Blau Clutha. Oh, so-and-so live over there. Tyrone live over there. Do you know him? All right, do you know Junebug? All right, do you know Big Mama? Hold on, you don't know Big Mama? Bro, you ain't really from there. So we scrutinize people of our own lineage, asking them where they're from, and we have no issue. People pop it. I'm from East Oakland. I'm from the Murder Doves. I'm from West Pittsburgh. Mary Mack on mine. Like people love to pop they stuff. So when you start asking, where's your family from? Why are you being divisive, nigga? It's like, bruh, this is your chance to pop your collar. If you're trying to hide where you're from, it's just a red flag, a ruby red at that. You said you never heard of ARF? Well, now you're an ARF. But they trip on the African booty scratcher. Yeah, talk about overkill. This is what I always say. First of all, it was us calling each other African booty scratchers. I'm in California. I didn't grow up around hella Africans. I didn't go to school with hella Africans. I only know a couple of them. And most of them, they were like trying to hide their African nature. But then when they went home, their parents would tell them, not to hang around us and stuff. And we still accepted them. And when they accepted them, they were trying to act and look like us. And their parents were telling them, hey, stop trying to look like that, right? We accepted Africans. I got called an African booty scratcher, and I'm not African. And this was a long time ago. This was in the 90s. No one even uses that term anymore. So people are trying to resurrect and to try to act like they had some traumatic childhood experience. And let's just say, fine, you were called an African booty scratcher. You got called an African booty scratcher when you were 10. Nigga, now you're 50. Why are you still whining? I got called an African booty scratcher. How old are you again? 47. It's like, bro, are you kidding me? So black people, foundational black Americans, we're supposed to get over. Why y'all tripping off nigga? Okay, you know what? We need to stop tripping. So shouldn't you stop tripping off African booty scratcher and tether, which nobody is barely calling you that? Because the majority of the community doesn't even use that terminology. Thank you, melanated Robin Harris. I knew his name was Robin. Robin, he was not only, obviously he was a decent actor. Because I'm only saying decent because they didn't give him a lot of roles, so I can't really say what his range was in acting, but I do think that he was a good actor, and I think that he was a great comedian though, because he was good at stand-up, and stand-up is much harder than just doing like a Facebook reel or something like that. So salute to Robin Harris, and salute to John. Oh, absolutely, I will. And I like that about Miss Majestic Melanin, because she always likes to learn. So I told you, I'm not only here to learn, but I'm here to teach. Bada boom, bada bam. So I dropped that link in the chat, and let me know if you have any issues clicking on the link. If you do, I don't know if you're on Instagram or any of these other platforms. Otherwise, you can just DM me and I can send it to you directly. But I think you should be able to copy and paste it from here. And no, thank you for your viewership. I do appreciate you. So I'm gonna just get into a few more of these slurs, but y'all get the gist. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but I just want people to understand, like, y'all thinking about the N word, it's not just the N word. Like, to be honest, like, the N word is actually mild to some of these things. Like, I'm not saying that it's cool to just be running around dropping N bombs, but if somebody says, "Oh, shut up, you boofer," you're like, hold on, like what did they call me? Yeah, you a boofer, huh? So it's like a bonky. So it's basically a bonky is a black honky. There is basically like an Oreo, right? An Oreo is dark on the outside, white in the middle. So if somebody calls you a bonky, they're calling you a black honky. Like, have you even heard these terms before? And these terms are not new. So just because you personally may have not been called that doesn't mean someone else of your lineage hasn't been called this. Doesn't mean that people aren't using these terminologies to describe it, right? And these people may use these terms in private. Oh, those god darn bonkies. You know what I mean? They'll use these terms in private, and you're like, a bonky? What the heck is that? And you don't think anything of it, but they're talking about you. A boogie, referring to the boogie woogie form of jazz. So it can mean devil or white man. So a boon, saying that you're a baboon, rather than just call you a baboon, they'll say you're a boon. So is that worse or better than monkey? You're a monkey. You're chimping out. You're a boon. Is it the same or is it the worst? I mean, I can't say that this is worse than being called a monkey. You got darn boon. It's like, damn, you might as well just call me a monkey. Because that's essentially what they're calling you. They're calling you a baboon, right? A boot lip. You see, they got a lot of stuff with lip. A biscuit lip, boot lip, a bounty bar, bourbon, boy. You know the connotation behind boy. A Brillo pad. They're basically saying that your hair is so rough it resembles a Brillo pad, i.e., a kitchen. A brown trumpet, a brownie, a bub rub. I'm just saying, like, if somebody pulls up, yeah, man, I got a Confederate flag, and what you gonna do about it, you bub rub? It's like, oh no, that would get me a little bit hot. I'm like, what the hell is a bub rub? It just don't sound right, but you get what I'm saying. Buckwheat, referring to the character on Little Rascals, who they made him kind of like, you know, they tried to make him like a kind of little dumb kid. That's why he can't pronounce nothing, right? Rather than say okay, he says oh tay, right? So and then he doesn't really say a lot. He just is kind of there. So if you look at that character, they did a lot of racial tropes with that black character, but it was supposed to be representation. Hey, y'all want a black kid? So we'll put one in there and we're gonna make him dumb. Another one with lips, bumper lips, a bun, a big, ugly, you know the rest. You know what the N stands for. The BU stands for big, ugly, and you know what the N stands for. So, a buppy, a young, black, upwardly professional person like a yuppie. A burnt cracker. So, they're essentially just like bonky. They're saying, you think I'm a honky? You a bonky. You think I'm a cracker? You're a burnt cracker. A burnt match, burnt toast, a burrhead, a bush boogie, saying that you're basically a jungle. A bush boogie is another word for like a jungle bunny. You're a goddamn bush boogie. It's like some of these terms sound way worse than just a simple M-bomb. Yeah. And I seen all those gang members, a bunch of bush boogies with nappy heads. It's like, yeah, I'm just saying, like, is that any better than the N-word? If they call you butter, oh, look at that group of butter. You're like, oh, they're just calling us butter. No, it's an alternative to the N-bomb. So C-15, a kaffir, was used by South Africans. A Calpurnia, the black women that are nannies comes from the book To Kill a Mockingbird. Another thing with lips, camel lips. Calling you a Canadian, right? Essentially is like, oh, he's Canadian. That's like a slick way to say that, you're an igger with an N in front. Candyman, cut nigger is saying that you're basically a Canadian nigga. They're saying that you're a cargo, a chain dragger, a chango, which is used by Hispanics, meaning monkey. So not only do they call you a pinche mayate, they also call you chango. Hey, but Hispanics should be able to say nigga because they grew up around us. Yeah, they grew up around you calling you chango. Charcoal briquette. Chernozeby is a Russian term literally translating to black-assed. Cheshire cat. Chiquita. The Chiquita bananas have a black woman on the sticker. Remember that? Chiquita. I love Chiquita bananas, right? Why did Chiquita bananas, why did it fall off? Maybe because they was tired of seeing too much black. A chambo. What have we done to Panamanian people? So people in Panama are calling us chambo. So all of these groups got disrespectful names for us. And then when we just say, you know what, all y'all are tethers, that's xenophobia. is rather pathetic. Clicky. They're saying that a bunch of Africans have a bunch of clicks and pops. Ooh, ooh, ah, ah. Right? Calling you a cliff ape, a clocker, saying that essentially you're a crack dealer. They did have a movie called Clockers. Clyde perhaps comes from the name of the monkey in the Clint Eastwood movies. So they're calling you another monkey. Coal miner, Cocoa Puff, Cocolo. And this is what Dominicans use the terms for blacks, that they say they look like coconuts, brown on the outside. Coconuts, and it sounds really African. A cocoon, a black guy that stutters. I mean, I could just go on and on. I'm not even halfway through this stuff. Just like random names that you didn't even know. And they be like, "Hey, Cookie." And you like, "Oh, one of the few jobs blacks were allowed to do after enlisting was food preparation." So they didn't want to give black people jobs. So they would, have them cooking. So then they were like, "Oh, okay, you're a cookie." Right? So they're working hard cooking, and rather than praising them for that, it turns into a pejorative term. "You're a cookie." Cookie? Huh? And I think she said something about Chud. Chud from the monster movie Chud, starring primitive dark creatures that lived in sewers. So remember, Chud the Builder runs around dropping N-bombs. And remember, Chud the Builder hates black people. But then it came out that there was some black trans woman who was ramrodding him from behind. She would get the biggest dildos that she can find, spread his cheeks, and ram him from behind. Pause, pause. I know it sounds like a pause-worthy moment, but there's nothing pause about it. I'm going to continue because this is what really happened. And while she was hitting his, she was hitting his little snow booty from behind, he wasn't saying pause. He was telling her to continue, right? Chud the Bussy Fairy. Rather disgusting. But just look at this stuff. Cornbread, Cosby, cotton ball, cotton picker, cream of wheat. I mean, damn, you can't even eat no cream of wheat without them turning it into a slur towards you. Crime stopper, Criollo, which is a Brazilian slur for black people. In Brazil, there's a bunch of dark-skinned black people, and the light, bright white Brazilians are over there calling them Criollos. But then again, these are the people of color that we're supposed to pretend that we're in a coalition with. A DFM, a dumb friggin', y'all know the N word. A DAN, a dumb ASS. Y'all know the N word. Darky, darkness, dog, defendant, Democrat, destro. It's like, come on, man. Any word, they'll turn it into a pejorative against us. Ding dong, doodah, Donkey Kong, duty, Dorito. Because blacks have a fondness for Doritos. I ain't gonna lie, I do like Doritos. Nacho cheese and spicy nacho is my favorite, right? But we can't even like Doritos. The same thing. Y'all like fried chicken and watermelon. Do you like fried chicken? Yeah. Do you like watermelon? Yeah. So why isn't it a slur for you? Because I'm not black. Okay, but we both like it though. Yeah, but y'all love it. But you just said you love it too. It doesn't make any sense. Fried chicken is delicious. Watermelon is a nutritious fruit. And especially what you eat the rind is considered nature's Viagra. So if you need a little extra motivation so you can stand tall, you can do that by drinking watermelon and adding other natural things to it, right? What is bad about that? The only thing bad is that black people are eating it. So now it's bad. Watermelon is delicious. It's an American staple, but then the black people eat it. Now it's bad. You love fried chicken, and then you see a harmless black person eat fried chicken. Look at that nigga. Like, what is he doing? Eating that chicken that I love. Okay. Y'all know about DWB, driving while black? A muli, a slur used mainly by Italians. An igot, a derogatory term used by Filipinos, meaning nigga. Like, how many terms do Filipinos have towards us? They're calling us a ego and an egoy, an 8 ball, in SOB means apes obey, extra crispy, fahim. Arab used his words to describe a really black, dark Arabs. A fakey, Jamaican, someone who try to act Jamaican but aren't. Fat Albert, a field nigga. Fila, finally I left Africa. A floppy. In Zimbabwe, the blacks are referred to as floppies because of the floppy hats they wear on their heads. A 40. Black people are known to drink 40-ounce beers. A frobro. Frostbite. Fubu. Future inmate. Gator bait, because some of these sick, twisted people used to throw our kids, to gator, right? And they said dark meat of chicken that was fed to alligators. Well, it wasn't just all chicken, but let's just go with that. They call us GED because that's the highest level of education that many blacks get to. So I can go on and on, but they look at this one, a grappico, because blacks have an affinity for grape soda. Well, you know how Kale loved orange soda. I do. Ooh. Well, we love grape soda. So what's wrong with grape soda? Grape soda is delicious. And you said, I'm sorry, these are some corny terms. I told you they were corny, but the corny stuff makes it lightweight infuriating, right? Because Roger, you would damn near rather somebody call you, man, shut up, Roger, you old nigga. But if they said, shut up, Roger, you old grapey-co, shut up, Roger, you old gollywog. I mean, a gollywog. I'm just saying, like, that doesn't really sound. They call you a gronisha or groid, which is short for negroid. Shut up, you groid. You got darn groid. I mean, does that really sound better? Now it's corny. It's very corny, but I'm just saying some of these are very infuriating. C15 sounds gangsta, like a white TV show writer came up with that. I'm sure they did. Probably white and probably, possibly, potentially, allegedly Jewish. Possibly. Chud, how ironic. Yeah, it's ironic that Chud's name literally means like some dark, mystical creature. And then he was letting some dark chick pound his little booty cheeks with a dark dildo. It's rather pathetic. Coonadian is crazy word. Hey, there are a lot of Coonadians out of there. And so that one is rather funny. I thought that was very mild to some of the other stuff. They're calling you a greaser, saying that your hair is naturally greasy and stuff. So a lot of these slurs, you know what I mean? Look at this stuff, bruh. Ho de bows, horse gums, Huey, Inky, a jackamammy, a combination of Jackrabbit and Aunt Jemima. People have said that jackrabbits look like lynched black people, right? So again, some people are just focused on calling you the N-word, but if somebody calls you a jackamammy, I'm just saying, a jumbo, a person who's blacks from Africa who are considered by other blacks as unsophisticated, comes from Jumbo, Kenya. A Jar Jar, saying you look like Jar Jar Binks. A jelly bean, everyone hates the black ones, and black jelly beans are disgusting. So you see what I'm saying? Even with the jelly beans, you eat a black jelly bean. See, because you don't like black jelly beans, that means you don't like black people. Okay. A Jiffy Pop, a jig, short for jigaboo, a jig and a pig, a jigger, a junior mint, a Justin Igger. Hey, I know his name. He's Justin Igger. You see the plays? These are very corny, but they're elaborate ways just for them to disparage us. A kingfish, a Kirby. A Kirby is a Cuban slur for blacks. Kirby is a popular black bean manufacturer amongst Cubans. A knuckle dragger. A kokujin. Kunta. Kurishan. Kurumbo. Kushi. Lando. Latifa. A leprechaun, a combination of leprechaun and coons for blacks of Irish descent. Leroy Rogers, Little Black Sambo, Liver Lips, there they go with the lips again. Luscious, Lugs, Meme, Mongrel Monkey, Maroon, Marvo, McNigga. Reference to McDonald's new line of advertising towards black. So once McDonald's say, hey, look, man, you know, it's a bunch of poor black people, you know, we gonna pander towards the poor people. And they're saying, oh, y'all pandering towards the McNiggas. It's like, damn, even advertising has turned into a way to shun us, right? So y'all can go on. And mind you, I'm not even halfway through this stuff. I'm just getting exhausted. So I'm gonna go ahead and just pull this down. But y'all get the gist. How long was I going? And I wasn't even halfway through. So I don't want to hear anybody whining about, I got called a tether. And yeah, you're going to keep getting called a tether if you behave like one, just as well as people who behave in a Sambo nature will keep getting called in Sambo. Now, I'm going to get ready to shut this thing down. Depending on how y'all react to this stream, I may come back and hit y'all with a double header. But I do appreciate everyone that's been here. Hopefully y'all were able to learn something that did enlighten you. And hopefully I didn't miss anyone's chat. But if I did, you know, let it be known. So, and I dropped the link. Seemed like nobody had no smoke. So, and even the dude that did, and I appreciate you, Melanated, you know, you a real one. And you see, that's why I had to put you in blue, because you've been so true. And I like Melanated because she's always willing to learn. She's inquisitive and she's going to add to the discussion as well. So I appreciate that. And all of y'all could have been anywhere in the world. Y'all chose to be here with me, at least momentarily. And for that, I thank you. Now I know it's Saturday and y'all want to go turn up. So, you know, I'm going to send y'all off the right way with a series of short visuals. And then, you know, if I get a decent response, then I may come back and hit y'all with another one. Yeah. Hey. B-Eazy Dat Dude, yeah. Shit so hot it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. I bring the pain like an aftermath of a car wreck. It's a lot of niggas that say they real. To me, that shit is far-fetched. Them cats is pussy. They really is on some feminine stuff. I ride up on them with the 40 ounces. The definition of adrenaline rush. What it do is sweet like cinnamon puffer. My niggas is rough like Willow Pass. Grew up out on Mary Mac, but I used to hang on Willow Pass. These birds that I roll with, outcasts and misfits. Better zip lips so you get hit when the fifth spit. Flat line in your pit. Trap habits is black magic, no voodoo. Get the bands like Goku for the cocaine and go cuckoo. Most these niggas is foo-foo, so I'm shitting on them like doo-doo. I can't fuck with y'all like tofu. I'm just saying, man, like Goku. Bad bitches at the house with me watching Netflix on Roku. Fuck them both at the same time, and I swear to God it was so cool. Street legend, real boss, I call shots cause I'm still saucy. I know some G's to the bike crack on Chirac and then fly back out to Milwaukee. When they hear me flow, they say I be burning up. Cookie to the draw is what we burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up. When you hear me flow, say I be burning up. Cookie to the draw is what we burning up. What you ain't know, oh, we burning up. This shit so hot, it's burning up. Just go ahead and turn this up.
B-Eazy, he is that dude. Ooh, he is that
so he can get the job done. He about to reign supreme if you thought his run would soon end. He just getting started though, so go ahead and tune in. Be easy, he is that dude. Ooh, 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 he is that dude. Ay, 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 yo. B-Eazy is that dude. You already know, for sure, you already know. It's easy to see why he is that dude. He's been a favorite, even if you hating it. Give him his flowers, pay him respect. He's a certified legend and one of the best. B-Eazy, remember the name. Woo!
B-Eazy Dat Dude.
B-Eazy, tell me how it feel. Ooh, tell me how it feel. To be real, to be really that dude. Be-Eazy, that dude. Ay, 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 that dude. Oh, Be-Eazy.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
Follow. Be easy. You know you want to.
We're waiting.
You love me. You really love me. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah.